Welcome, Karen. Welcome, welcome. Welcome, Echo Fox. Welcome. I hope you had a nice day so far. Let's have a nice Saturday morning together. At least for my European friends, I guess. And we have a lot, a lot to talk about. Yeah. So yesterday, I was actually expecting the balance preview somewhat soon, but they announced it on Thursday evening, my time, that it will be on Friday. So yesterday was the developer stream. Welcome, Filthy, welcome. And they made quite a big stream this time and quite a lot of changes actually. So we will go over them, I guess, in a while, maybe half an hour or so. And I will give you my opinion on them and really analyze what actually is changing, because I feel like this is one of the rare balance patches which actually might change quite a lot. Yeah. Welcome, Final One. Welcome, welcome. I'm good. I hope you're doing well as well. No, I'm not tired actually. No, I'm actually everything fine. Don't worry. It's just my Saturday look apparently. And today is a big day because I have to actually get the video out about this as well. So we will do the recording of the video on stream, so to say, yeah. So the balance patch, because it's actually a really big one, I really want to get my opinion on that out, because I feel like it might change a lot, especially in the competitive modes, but also in PvE apparently. I think a lot of the reworks, for example, just for you, Echo Fox, I think actually that Scourge is in a weird spot after this patch, for sure. I wouldn't say it's dead, but it's definitely not in the spot that it is currently, which is interesting to say the least. Yeah. Nice, very good. Being in the gym, very good. That's what we like. I think the problem, to be honest, Filthy, I can give you my opinion already a bit on the balance patch. I would agree with you that there are a lot of things, or not a lot, but some things in there that I wouldn't agree with. Yeah, that are just, I would say, not perfect, or let's say somewhat debatable, arguable if that's really a good change. But, and that's the important part here, I feel like this time they were more experimental. So they said, okay, we don't care if it's just a change that is not upsetting anyone. No, this time we're actually doing changes that affect stuff, yeah, that change stuff, even if it might upset some people. And I think that's the better direction to balance stuff, because then at least we get something that changes and not always say, oh, we have 1% more damage on this build, but we still play everything else and play this build exactly the same. It's not a change in that sense. A change for me is something that really affects the game. Yeah. Yeah, I think there are, let's say, I would say there are 3 classes that are not extremely buffed in this patch. I would say, first of all, it's Guardian, the second is Ranger, and the last one is Necromancer. Those 3 classes are not extremely buffed. All the other classes just get, I would say, overall positive. That's actually insane, yeah. A lot of buffs, but I not like the reworks to skills. Yeah, but you will get the muscle memories and the knowledge back. You know, having reworks, I think, is something that really improves the game, because in the long run, it will make the game more interesting. You know, if you have only skills that are staying the same all the time, then you will learn all the skills and you will notice that 90% of the skills in the game are actually not really good. And if they rework some of them so that they get this number of not good skills down, that's perfect. That's what we want, even though you might relearn them. I think that's important. Welcome, Dino. Welcome, welcome. I think it's weird. Yeah, I agree with Seosekos that they buffed the 100 blades in the way they did. I personally actually think they should have buffed the 100 blades that you can move. But apparently that's not what they wanted to do, so fair, I guess. But I can't really understand why it's only in PvE. That's like saying, the Greatsword in PvP and World vs. World, we are totally happy about where it is. Which is weird, because it's actually not in a really good spot, I would say. Yes, you can play it, but it's not good. I think Warrior overall, you really see that they don't really care too much about Warrior. They make some changes that are good, don't get me wrong, but a lot of the changes that they're doing are just not helping Warrior for the most part, yeah? So for example, Bladezone gets some buffs, that's good, but you don't get any Condi buffs for Condi Berserker in PvE, or Condi in general in PvE. It's weird, but I guess that's what they want to do. I saw quick DPS in action and it looked so strong and nice. I hope that remains the same. Yeah, I think you can summarize the patch, final one, in a few words, and those would be: they buffed 90% of the stuff. 90% of the stuff in the patch is buffs, and only a few things are reworks that might lead to some kind of worse specs than before. But it's straight up nerfs. It's very rare. Very, very rare. Yeah. And Firebrand doesn't get nerfed at all. Yeah, yeah, I agree. Okay, maybe you're right. Maybe they made some changes to Berserker. That's good, but I feel like Warrior in general doesn't get too much love. That's the thing. If you look, for example, at how good Ranger is, and they actually don't nerf it at all, or mostly not, it's crazy. Yeah. Yeah, they made some really crazy stuff to Mesmer. I think the biggest part why I'm upset as a content creator for me is that they changed Chronomancer in a way that it requires completely new gear. And that's always something that I don't like, because for people that actually have, ascended gear for this character, for this specific setup, they have to re-gear the whole Chronomancer setup. And that's not something that I like. I hope they don't do that often, because that's really a bad practice, because then you always have something to work towards, and then when you get it, then maybe a few months later you have to change the whole gear setup. That's really bad. We will get to it, final one. They made some changes to the critical strike and critical damage that you get, so that means that you as Chronomancer now have to use different gear stats, because this gives you crit damage and it will give you crit chance now. So that means that your gear changes to the optimal setup. It's really weird. Yeah, exactly. You have to adjust your gear and your critical, your precision. Yeah, I think I don't like gear changes personally. I think that's a problem. Yeah, we will get support Vindicator. That's true. I like that. Tempest is not gonna get nerfed. Don't worry. I mean, somewhat. Hammer Tempest gets nerfed in PvE, but that's about it. Everything else stays the same. Which is, for the most part, I would say okay, because it was obviously very overperforming. Yeah, they didn't touch Chronomancer at all, which is obviously weird, because Chronomancer was, I would say, the most overperforming healer in the game, and they didn't touch it at all. It's completely the same. It's crazy. Yeah, Mirage got some crazy changes. Mirage is actually probably the biggest rework in the whole patch, which was expected and really necessary, because it was not performing that well in all game modes. Or it wasn't performing to the extent that they wanted it to. Especially in PvE, it was really weird. Yeah. Yeah, obviously I would agree that sometimes it's really, if you don't have legendary armor, it feels really bad sometimes with all the changes that you get to the gear, and you can't adjust that frequently. But I feel like they really only do that if classes need a lot of crit chance. They really want to get you to be fine with playing full Berserker in, I would say, most situations, to get to 100% crit chance. I think that's a fair thing, because some classes can do that already and a few classes can't, and that's always a bad thing for them, because that will just make the gearing on those a little bit harder. Yeah, I'm happy. I'm actually happy that they didn't nerf Chrono, because I really enjoy the Chrono playstyle as well. I'm just saying, if they wanted to make the other classes better in a way, they had to just bring down Chronomancer and make the other classes better that way. But apparently that's not what they want to do. So they want to buff every support up to Chronomancer. I guess that's fine as well. That's power creep, but still. You're right, actually, Winslow, it might be viable as a DPS Alacrity Vindicator, but I feel like it's really weird because you really need the dodge damage, and if you don't, it's really a big part of your damage on the DPS Vindicator. So if you really want to get a elect DPS Vindicator, it feels like they have to put a lot of effort in to get your damage multipliers and get your maybe your greatsword and sword damage up, so that, but only on Vindicator. So I feel like it's really hard to actually make that work. But maybe you're right, maybe it's possible, and that would be an interesting build for sure. Because it would, I mean, I think they don't want that, to be honest, because they have elect DPS Renegade, and that's more the thing that they want to have as a DPS build and not Vindicator, apparently. If you know, it's like you feel like it's like you really sacrifice a lot to get the alacrity, and I feel like it's too much to actually make a DPS build viable. That's the problem. Don't worry, we will talk about the balance changes in detail after this run. Just a few more minutes and then we can actually talk about it. I think, yeah. Yeah, I would say that they really, they said they are currently setting up for some kind of heal renegade, but it's not there yet, and they want to have Vindicator as filling the spot as a healing alacrity renegade, or healing alacrity, how is it called? Revenant, that's what I meant. But I feel like Renegade is not playable as a healer right now, and that will only change if they buff it drastically or rework it drastically. It's just not as good, you know. Thanks for the follow, Dan. Really appreciate it. And it should just go announce Spellbreaker as the hammer class. All other weapons on Spellbreaker are currently suboptimal. I mean, I think that's not the case right now, because you can play the arm straight line and you have really crazy DPS like 44 or 45k with just auto-attacking almost on the dagger. But you're right, hammer is very fitting to Spellbreaker, and with the buffs I think actually it's probably maybe the best weapon. Let's see. Yeah, I think I agree with you, Winslow, that it's actually they don't. I personally don't like heal Renegade. I think heal Herald and especially heal Vindicator is something that is way more enjoyable. But apparently they really said it on stream. I remember that line in my head. We set up currently with this change for the heal Renegade in the future. Currently it's not there yet, but we set it up right now. And that made me really concerned, because that means either there is a really big rework to Renegade coming again, or they make something really crazy buffs or maybe some new weapon or whatever that really fits Renegade in the next expansion. Because heal Renegade is not there yet. Yeah. They want it to be something, yeah. But I feel like that's only possible with some heavy investment in the class. Yeah, I think support Necro, that's the cool part. That's the only thing that I really like about the Necromancer changes, that I really, really like, is that now you can play some kind of Zerg support Necromancer, because the staff is actually perfect. Really, it's made for World versus World. You can deal some damage, and you have crazy support with it. It's perfect. It's really, it's insane. Yeah, I feel like, I think, final one, you're right. I think Vindicator should have been a support in the first place in PvE. I feel like this is a class where it should have been supportive by nature in the beginning of PvE when EOD came out. That's just my take. I feel like that they didn't do that. It's just a big mistake. And I agree with Spellbreaker, that should also have some kind of support element in it, because it's just too selfish. Warrior staff versus Necromancer staff for support? Yeah, something like that, I guess, yeah. That's how it will turn out, I guess, yeah. But I'm really happy that they made a big balance patch with some really crazy changes, and also talked about it for quite a while. It was like 1.5 hours almost. I really liked it. I think they should do that more often. Tell us what is actually happening, and just give us more feedback what they are developing on, so that we actually see what is actually, why they invest time in some stuff and what they think about it. That's in my opinion way more important than just bringing out a patch every 3 months and we don't know anything in between. Yeah, glad that you enjoy my content, Cyrolith. Really appreciate it. Yeah, Spellbreaker, I feel like Spellbreaker with Dagger is something that's very, you know, it's very fitting. what is our group doing? They are just randomly dying to the chains all the time. It's insane. 3 people already dead. Crazy. Classical puck run apparently at Whisper. Which class would you say the biggest winner and the biggest loser? I think the biggest winner, in my opinion, might be Mirage. Mirage is insane, I think, after the patch in every game mode. I think that it's actually a big buff. And overall the class, I would say probably Elementalist. I think Elementalist rework is actually, they did some really good stuff there, I would say. In terms of biggest loser, I think it's harder to say because they actually don't have that many things that are, you know, too bad. I would say the biggest loser is probably Necromancer because you lose the transfusion. I think that you lose your healing power with the downstat healing. So you completely, it's not the most important thing anymore on your build, which is okay. That was the thing that made you unique, but apparently they don't want to have unique classes, so I feel like that's the biggest loser in my opinion. Which parts did you feel was a win for Elementalist? I think that the reworks of the underused utility skills made it really good, and also that you have a lot of buffs in competitive modes for fire trade line, for a lot of I will talk about this in a few minutes, and it's the first class that we actually talk about because we will do it alphabetically, and it will be, oh my god, we will talk about it, yeah. Yeah. So I personally think it's I think, like I said in the beginning, the patch itself can be summarized as a buff to almost everything, with the exception to things like Ranger, Necromancer, and Guardian, which got reworks that are not changing too much. Yeah, this is actually insane. I don't know what the group did here. Yeah, it's always fun, you know. It's always like when I puck in PvE, it feels like it's almost always an adventure, which is obviously way more entertaining than always a perfect run. Especially if you expect it to be some chaotic fight, then it's always even better, you know, if it really turns out like that. Yeah, I think Necromancer is quite good. I wouldn't say that it makes it completely bad, but I'm just saying the transfusion nerf is actually something that I would say I don't like, that they nerf stuff that is, or remove stuff that made a class unique. I feel like that's something that I really don't like about the general direction of the balancing, that they make changes that are just homogenizing a lot of the classes to almost feel the same, just having a different color. You know, all the healers apply stability. All the healers provide quickness or alacrity and don't have any uniqueness anymore. It's like, it feels almost always the same. And that's, in my opinion, bad. Because, for example, Scorch was the thing that actually was able to resurrect people from downstate really, really easily. Even after the transfusion nerf that you can't teleport them in downstate anymore, you were still the king of just reviving people because you had so much downstate, let's say, power. But now they remove that with the transfusion nerf, and it feels like now you are just a green, I don't know, druid, a dark green druid. It feels not perfect in my opinion. The Guardian Greatsword buffs are, I would say, it's not buffing in PvE. The 5 skill gets less damage, as far as I know. That means it's a nerf in terms of damage, but in terms of healing, it's a buff. But, which is okay, but that's how it is. Welcome, 5-head. I was looking for some builds, and a lot of them use some extra stats like Berserk and Dragons. Is it important to get a Dragon gear as well? So you will be fine completely by just running full Berserk gear. So don't worry about it. It's just the most optimal setup nowadays would be with more dragon pieces in there for most builds, because you can crit cap easily and you get some more damage out by having, and even tankiness actually by going for dragon stats. But it's not like insane value for most builds. Of course, if you go for full dragon, some builds, for example, Unload Data almost goes for full dragon. This would be obviously quite a big damage loss. It's like, I think, almost 20% or something, which is obviously a lot. Yeah. So, but for most builds where you just have 1, 2, maybe 5 pieces, it's not a big deal. It's okay. Yeah. Do you think Scrapper needs a nerf on the burst? I don't think so. We will see if that's actually the case after the buff. But right now, I think it's okay to buff Scrapper. Yeah. Isn't it better for the health of the game that such an easily accessible reviving mechanic is not so readily available? I think for me, the thing is, it would be okay if it's not that easily accessible if the power creep wasn't there. But I feel like classes get power crept so hard. Like if you look at Chronomancer, if you look maybe even at Druid and stuff, they are so power crept. And you nerf stuff that another class would be, you could consider on this class as power creep as well. Why would you remove something that makes this class uniquely power crept, so to say, and give another class still the same power creep, but it's just different? So I personally agree that in an ideal world, you would not power creep the game and make classes like this very, very broken reviving thing only possible for a really heavy sacrifice in healing and barrier and cleansing and stuff. And then you really would take this to actually get some safety with down stats. But this is not the world we are living in. Yeah. So we are living in a world where ArenaNet buffs everything up to a certain point and nerfs nothing down anymore. At least that's how it feels like. And I feel like this is a bad thing then to remove the transfusion, which made it unique, and makes it worse by not giving it anything back that makes it broken, so to say. But I agree, in an ideal world, you wouldn't have such a broken skill anyway. Yeah. It would be nice for Necro if the amount of healing that current transfusion does gets reworked into staff. I think they should not overload staff too much, but I would agree that it would be cool that you could run staff and have the transfusion. I think the trait that they reworked should not be a Grandmaster trait, so that you can still track transfusion, and it should be some kind of master trait, maybe only, something like that. That would be my ideal solution here. How would you rate a Scourge in World vs. World if they made all Shroud skills unblockable and reduced the cooldown to normal open world cooldown? We had something very similar at the beginning when Scourge came out. It wasn't unblockable, but it was very, very close. It was absolutely broken. It was absolutely insane. It was like SSS tier, something like that. Triple S tier, something, yeah. I feel like it would be absolutely insane. But even now, with the buffs to staff, I feel like support Scourge will be quite good at World vs. World, actually. It has some really big value, at least in less organized squads. It will be very good, I think. I think that will be my go-to build for just clouding. Yeah. I feel like it's very common for a game that it is out for over 10 years at this point to make the game a little bit more, just less unique, the classes, just because they want to balance it. And it's really hard to balance classes that have so many different skills without making them somewhat similar, so that they always fill the similar roles. And then you have, so to say, a little bit more freedom in how you balance it, because you can just tune the numbers of one thing and everything falls apart, in line after that as well. But if everything would be very unique, it's very hard to balance something to make it very fair. I think that's the main problem here. But I don't know. I think in an ideal world, they would actually still get that done and make more unique stuff. But I feel like that's not what they want to do. Was there any changes with Engineer? Yeah, Engineer was actually the biggest part of the patch. It gets a lot of reworks. Yeah. But I wonder why they don't remake Warrior so he's more versatile. Yeah, I would agree. I think Warrior is something that is very basic, and it was in the beginning of the game as well. But then all the other classes got more magic, more access to some crazy unique or crazy broken stuff without Warrior getting anything that makes it even better in the basicness, let's say. Yeah, I feel like they really need some help there. I agree. It's not like Warrior is bad, especially after the Bladezone buff. I think Bladezone will be one of the best DPS or Alacrity DPS for sure. But it feels like it's very niche because it's a build that is quite hard to play. Not a lot of people actually can perform on that. I don't know. We will see. As someone who mains Heal Scourge, it just feels so much nicer that I can actually be useful in 96, 97. Right now it just feels bad to play them. Yeah, I agree. But at the same time, I feel like it was nice to have something that made you unique. And now it feels like you are Heal Scourge, you are doing the same like a Druid, like a Chronomancer, like a Firebrand. You are exactly the same, just a different color. And that's not what I like. But I agree, obviously it feels nice to be useful in fractals that are needing a lot of stability, for example, because your staff might be enough to actually keep that up. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think the unrooting of 100 blades for me, I saw the 100 blades and didn't read what they actually did to it, and I thought, yeah, instantly that will be, you can move. But apparently no, that's not what they want. I mean, the damage buff is nice, don't get me wrong, but I feel like it's not like the game changer, in my opinion. The identity to remain rooted, yeah, exactly. It feels like the identity of being weak. Exactly. Yeah, very weird. Scorch was a training noob group carry, mostly, but not the best healer in most scenarios. And I think that was okay. You know, I have to, that might be a hot take, but I think that was something that actually made it unique in a way that I liked, you know. For me personally, I think it's cool to have some healers that are really good at inexperienced group and chaotic fights, and you have some healers that are really good in really clean fights, like a Druid, for example, where you really know every mechanic perfectly. I think that's a good thing, but they want to homogenize everything, and now every healer feels exactly the same, which is okay. That's a buff for Heal Scourge in some more experienced groups, but it feels at the same time a little bit sad. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like the 100 blades thing is really, it's really a big oversight on their thing, that they say this is the identity. It's just the thing that makes 100 blades actually bad. That's just the truth. Do you know if they changed this affected Condivert? I think Condivert stays exactly the same. Nothing changes for Condivert. I think Virtuoso in general doesn't get any big changes. It's Power Word and Condivert. I think they are almost exactly the same. But I didn't nerf or buff the Greatsword 2 on Mesmer, which is bugged, and this bugged since the beginning of time, and it's still bugged after this, apparently. Yeah, okay. There's some kind of middle ground where every healer can do the bare minimum so that it can be viable everywhere, but it excels at different things. That would be perfect. That would be, I think that exists, but they are not looking for it, apparently. I have to tell you a funny story. Yesterday I did one Dragonstorm and I dropped the precursor. I was so happy, you know, just from a random mob, I got a precursor, yeah? And now you will say, oh my god, he's finally lucky. No, it was a precursor that is worth like 10 gold. Nice. So that was my second precursor drop in the whole life, over 10k of Guild Wars 2 hours. And my second precursor drop, which was exactly the same as the first one. And both of the times it was worth like 10 gold. Approved. Very nice. So just for you, Echo Fox. Yeah. Yeah, versatility of Chronomancer makes it so broken, I agree. They could shorten the time on 100 blades limitations to 2 seconds and would fit within the stun duration of most skills. Yeah, I think just small changes like that actually would make a big difference to make this class or weapon feel better. But I feel like they just don't care, I feel like. If Guardian had a skill like that, they would have instantly buffed it. But that's not what they did, you know. It's Warrior, they don't care. Yeah. Yeah, I think the precursor prices are horrible. It's like you feel really bad. You think, oh my god, I got a precursor, and then you look at the TP and it's worth nothing. Yeah. It's crazy. Okay, so I guess let's talk about it. Yeah, it's 3.5 seconds is way too long for a skill that does that much damage and is not really, it's roots in place. It's more likely that you get more damage while you cast 100 blades than the enemy. That's the insane part about 100 blades at this point. Okay, let me set it up and we will talk about the thing. Give me a second. So there it is. Now I just have to move myself so that you can actually see what is on the screen. I guess something like make myself a little bit smaller today. Small summer today. That's what we get. I played Banner Warrior for 5 years, I think. Everyone welcomed me in group content. Yeah, that was the good times where Warrior was like in a very good spot because everyone wanted to have the special stats that you provided, the extra stats. But that's not the case anymore. And I feel like if they would bring it back, maybe you would be fine. But I feel like they don't want uniqueness on any class anymore. So it's very unlikely that they will bring that back. I think if they bring banners back, they will buff it in a way that it's actually just a lot of boons on them so that you can provide crazy amount of boons with a banner warrior. But I feel like that would be boring. It's not the classical warrior playstyle. It would be more interesting to make the banners unique. But I mean, that's just my take as a veteran. Okay, so thanks, by the way, Redacted Goose for the and Dumbledore for the follows. Really appreciate it. So let's talk about the upcoming changes that we got previewed yesterday. And I will talk about each class and give you my feedback. And please let me know your feedback as well, of course, what you think about it, what you like, what you don't like. And this is just a preview, so there might be some changes coming after that. So they might adjust it, maybe completely revert it like they did last time. But it's not very likely for most of the stuff. And this one is a big one. So I can already say this is one of the best or the biggest changes we got and a lot of reworks. It might not be the best ones, but at least we get a lot of experimental stuff that change the game. I think this is a balance patch that changes the game in all game modes for the most part. And this is a good thing, in my opinion. Even though a lot of the changes or some of the changes might be arguable if that's a good thing, but at least it changes stuff and are not just some number changes. Okay, let's jump right in. So, first general change, they now give you Dark Aura when you blast a dark field instead of area blindness, which was obviously a very bad thing. Area blindness is not very crazy good if you compare it to stealth or healing or even might. Now you get Dark Aura. Dark Aura is like, okay, it reduces incoming condition damage and causes torment on enemies that strike you for 1 second. So it's not insane, but at least it's something better than area blindness. And they really rework a lot of stuff to work with Dark Aura, like on Thief and Revenant in particular, which is apparently what they want to do. I feel like it's not the most crazy thing, but it's better than, I guess, area blindness. So we will get to that when we get to the classes that I talked about. But let's start with Elementalist. So Elementalist, you see a lot of changes here for Hammer, but you can summarize it with the Flame Wheel thing. So in PvE, the Flame Wheel here gives you now 15% and will go on to 5% damage buff. This is important because this is a big nerf to Tempest that used Hammer. Because Tempest, DPS Tempest with Hammer, got a 15% damage buff, and this damage buff was not used on the Hammer itself for the most part. It was, but not most importantly. Most importantly on Overload Air. And now it does not affect it anymore that much because it's only 5%. And the damage buff that you got from this 15%, they applied it to almost every Hammer skill. So Hammer itself gets a buff by, let's say, 15% for all the skills, the damaging skills. But the Flame Wheel, the damage buff is reduced so that the Air Overload does only get a 5% buff. This is a nerf to DPS Tempest, but a buff to every other spec on Elementalist that uses Hammer. So for the people out there that use my Celestial Catalyst, this is a big buff. This is a really big buff, actually. A lot of damage. But other than that, not too much. We get some healing improvement on Ether Renewal. We get Signet of Water gets even more buffed. It's insane. The skill is already quite crazy what it does, all of this stuff together. And then the biggest thing here for competitive modes is Cleansing Fire is now a stun break. So it was a stun break at the beginning of the game. Now it's a stun break again. This is really good. I think that makes some kind of Elementalist builds really happy in competitive modes. It doesn't give you stability, so you still lack the stability uptime, but you actually get Condi Cleanse and Stun Break, which is a good thing. Even in PvE, that can be really helpful. I see that maybe on a Fire Weaver or something like that, it could be run. And then you have Arcane Power. This is again completely reworked. It's now Arcane Echo. And this is really fun. It now recharges your next weapon skill instantly. This is really fun. I liked it a lot because that leads to some really unique gameplay that an Elementalist or especially a Catalyst has, that you can reset your weapon skills, or at least one of them, twice. So if you use the elite skill of Catalyst, you actually can use it twice or thrice actually. So that means that you can, for example, 3 times cast a Meteor Shower, maybe Healing Rain, some really important weapon skills. And I think that's really fun. And with the trait, where is it? Arcane Lightning here. You now get quickness when you use Arcane Echo. So that can help to cast it faster, but it's not a big change. So I like this rework. I think that makes it more interesting. I'm not sure if it will be run anywhere outside of a really niche scenario in World vs. World, but I guess it's fun. Then we have Cliff of Elemental Power. This got completely reworked as well. Now you get a special effect depending on the attunement you're in, which is way better than just the random conditions that you get on this when you activate it. You get Condi Cleanse, you get a Daze, you get a Barrier, or you get a just Burning. I feel like this is what it should have been in the beginning, and I think this might be worth running in a lot of game modes now, if the damage numbers and the numbers in general are good enough. Then Pyromancer's Pursuers. This trait no longer removes Smite when triggering Flame Expulsion. This is one of the most overlooked changes here, because this is a big buff for every single game mode. And this is a solo trait because it gives you crazy amount of might. So in solo play, this is extremely strong, but also now in competitive modes, that makes all Elementalist builds that use the fire trait line way better. Way better. It's a big buff. Because you no longer lose some might stacks when you move out of fire, so to say. And this is really good. This is just a straight up crazy buff. And then we have a rework to Blinding Ashes, which was a trait that was fun, but completely underwhelming. It's like completely non-existent. So it blinded enemies that you burned on a very high ICD. And now it's just Inferno. That means burn now scales with power instead of condition damage, but at a reduced rate. So this is interesting in some scenarios. You could maybe make that work in some PvE scenarios where you play Scepter or something, you play a power build and you just get some more burning out of that, more damage with the weapon as well. But you could also maybe make some Celestial build actually with that, and maybe, but I feel like Pyromancer's Pursuers is just better than this one. But I guess it's a very interesting trait. I like the idea of that. And then we have Soothing Disruption. So this currently gives Vigor and Regeneration on your cantrips, and now it only gives Regeneration, and depending on the cantrip that you use, it gives some different boon. That's, I guess, okay, but you typically didn't use that trait for the most part anyway. I talked about that already. And then the big change here is actually Elemental Bastion. This trait now causes auras to grant Alacrity in addition. So Alacrity is now on 2 Grandmaster traits in Tempest. So one of them is when you charge your overlords, and the second one is when you provide an aura to your allies, they also grant Alacrity. So both of them are, so to say, competing, but both of them, depending on the duration here, should be able to upkeep Alacrity permanently. And that means you actually can use that trait for healer and the other trait for DPS Alacrity variant, which is a really cool, interesting design. This just makes this trait really strong as a healer. It's just a straight up buff to heal Tempest. Straight up. If that's able to upkeep it permanently. I don't know the numbers here. But it should. And then you can now move while using the Tailored Victory skill. That's just a buff. And this is just just a Weaver buff. I like that. I think Tempest actually is a winner, Filthy. I think Tempest is a winner, except the Hammer Tempest, the DPS. The full DPS Tempest version, this is a nerf, but the healer is actually a big win. Yeah. May I ask what you think is the most easiest world versus world roaming class in the game? Is there class or profession? I think the easiest, I think maybe Necromancer, something, maybe Reaper. Yeah, maybe even Harbinger. Those are quite easy to actually get into. But roaming is always hard. It doesn't really depend on the class. So, yeah. I wonder what the base cooldown of Arcane Echo will be. If it's, I think, to be honest, it's very similar to Mimic. So I think the base cooldown in PvE would be like probably 20 seconds, and you add the skill that is actually casted after this on top. So I feel like if it's Meteor Shower, you have it on a maybe like 40-45 second cooldown or something like that. If it's higher than that, especially in competitive modes, this skill is not used at all. I know if it's on a 60-second cooldown or something, after you use the weapon skill, it feels like too weak. I have to be honest. But we will see. You know, I think they will change this depending on it. So this is just a rework now, and if it's not run at all, then they will buff it after that. If it's too strong, they will nerf it. That's how they typically do it. Okay, now let's talk about Engineer. Engineer, this will be the biggest section of this whole thing because they actually have crazy reworks here. So Engineer gets an update to the Elixir skills. So all of them just get buffed. Maybe it's a little bit weird. B gets buffed for sure, but C is like, yeah, it's instant. That's good, and it heals you for each boon, so that's also very good. So I think that's also a very good skill now. But it's not a stun break, but at least you can cast it when you are feared, for example, or taunted. Just Elixir R is not a straight up buff. It's now a stun break, but the cooldown goes up in competitive modes. So I feel like all of them are okay now, but it's not like insane. Detection Pulse is completely gone. It's now Flashbang, and it's like a projectile. Yeah, I guess that's okay. But when we talk about it, Flashbang, the trait, actually is reworked and is now called Grand Entrance, and is now not as obnoxious anymore. It's still a very good trait because Explosive Entrance grants resistance now. So you have an access to get resistance to be immune against blind and chill and stuff that is really annoying you as an engineer. And then the crit chance helps a little bit with the damage as well. So this is the new Flashbang. New skill and not a trait anymore. Then the Elixir Gun skill here gets improved a bit. That's good. And then the completely reworked bomb kit. As I would say, it's a completely different kit now. The auto attack is weaker now in PvP, but I would say for the most part, you only use the 2 skill now in PvE for the damage. 3, 4, and 5 are not damage at all. It's utility. So the 3 skill is now Magnet Bomb, and it's just a pull, while the Smoke Bomb is now the Tool Belt skill. And the Tool Belt skill is now used to actually stealth, and you actually can use it instantly. So you can use it as Blast Finisher in there, especially with the Big Old Bomb, which is the 5 skill. And this will now combo the Blast Finisher twice. So that means you can actually get 6 seconds of stealth with the Smoke Bomb. Actually quite interesting. I'm not sure if this kit will actually be run in any game mode now, because it's like very niche. It has a lot of CC, and that's about it. So you can make some nasty bunker builds maybe in PvP. But other than that, I feel like it's a really weird kit. And then we have Flamethrower gets also complete rework. So I think the most notable one is that Smoke Vent. So the stun break that you had on your weapon skill now is now moved to the Tool Belt skill, and you get a new skill that actually just overpowers your attack, and you get quickness and might and burning nearby enemies, and you have some 5 really supercharged Flamethrower attack with the 5 skill. So I don't know, it feels like Flamethrower is again completely reworked, but I feel like it's more useful than this bomb kit, especially in PvE. I feel like the Flamethrower might be actually quite strong now. Especially because they changed Juggernaut trait. So that means that you don't longer pulse stability, instead grant stability and fire aura when you use Napalm. So that means that you actually really have to use Juggernaut in conjunction with the flamethrower. Other than that, it doesn't make any sense. It's already like that for the most part, but this is now really just a trait that changes flamethrower. That's about it. So I feel like this is actually very specific and not a lot of builds would use that probably. Then they made it the grenade kit, the grenade velocity made them baseline 100% increase. And the trait now longer only is the buff to the radius and not the velocity. That's a big buff, but typically engineers that use grenade kit run that trait anyway, so it's not that much of a buff if you think about it. But still, it gives you access to a 7% DPS increase anyway, and that's obviously 7% more damage by freeing you up to not take the trait if you are able to hit the grenades anyway with the smaller radius. Then this trait is also reworked. You now get Fury when you inflict bleeding on an enemy, and Fury has increased effectiveness. This makes it easier to crit cap. That's again something that I don't really enjoy, but it's a good thing for people that want to get more damage, because that means that just Fury is better on an engineer with the trait line here, and that means that you have to change your gear. If you were running that trait before, you now have to change your gear because you will get a higher value from Fury in PvE. But that's a straight up buff. And then you get a new Grandmaster trait that grants stability and quickness when you disable an enemy. And this in conjunction with the new flamethrower and the bomb kit can be really obnoxious in PvP. I can see some really nasty bunker builds here because you get so much CC and get a lot of stability and quickness because of that. I feel like this can be, this trait looks scary. I think this is not a trait that you would use in, maybe you can use it in PvE in a solo build and then it will be fine and fun actually. But in competitive modes, this looks really annoying. Really, really annoying. And then they reworked Iron Blooded as well. This is now chain reactivity. Successfully comboing a field with a blast or leap finisher grants you barrier. Every third trigger of this trait grants a larger barrier and might. This is very niche. I think this is just a competitive mode trait. It will not be used in PvE ever because it's really selfish and not really, it's very specific. But in PvP, maybe on some kind of hammer build, maybe. I think it's interesting at least. It's an interesting trait. I'm not sure if it's really good, but it's an interesting one. And then we have Gadget here that's just buffing Slick Shoes to have 2 stun breaks when you take this trait, and Utility Goggles gives protection instead of barrier. Okay. Oh, it grants barrier instead of protection, sorry. So yeah, it's just straight up better to use this trait now, but I'm not sure if you would really run that for the most part. Then we have the Holosmith traits that they actually forgot to show on stream. This is actually quite big. This 5 skill in Holoforge is now an evade. This is actually really strong. It has a crazy defiance damage, so it's a crazy launch as already. Has crazy crit chance, does a decent amount of damage, it's a blast finisher, and now evades. So it's actually really, really overloaded. It's a really good skill, costs a lot of heat as well, but still. Then they increased the power coefficient of Prime Light Beam by quite a bit actually in PvP, so it will hit harder. And this Vent Exhaust will now grant Vigor on dodge as well. It's actually really big, because this is already a trait that is quite useful in competitive modes. So I think it's Holosmith actually is in a good spot, even though you just get 3 changes. Yeah, thanks for Echo Fox for posting the notes. Sorry, I should have done it earlier. But as stability, don't pulse. You will get easy CC'd and killed. That is true. The Juggernaut trait was really good because it pulsed stability. I agree with that one, Filthy. But it now is a more active and more counter-playable trait. And I think that's way better, you know? It's like, then if it just pulses stability, that's very unfun to play against something like that because you can't deny it. And now it's more like the enemy, if they don't play very well and don't use the Napalm, they don't get the stability. And it's just more interactive in my opinion. Yeah, see you, DC. Yeah, I agree. I think this Iron Blooded trait is like in PvE completely useless. You would never run it in PvE because it feels like the barrier that you get from just damaging the enemy is already enough. And why would you take a trait that gives you more barrier? You don't need it, or you can't even use it. So in competitive modes, that's a different thing. I think that might be okay, but I feel like it's competing against really good traits already there. But maybe we see some crazy cooks there that use a lot of leap and blast finishers, maybe. Yeah. Okay. Let's go to Guardian. Guardian actually gets not a lot of changes. Guardian is really, I would say, quite small for a Guardian, even though it's the favorite child of ArenaNet, it's not really that much changed. So now the Orb of Wrath, so the Scepter auto attack, is now tracking the target. That can be really fun because now you can just sidestep it for the most part, so you can just wiggle and you will actually not get hit by this. And now it's actually following you. That's a buff to Scepter, and the Scepter 3 just gets a cooldown decrease. I think that's fair. Then they reworked the focus skill. So we get just 5-second cooldown of the 5, but we get a really crazy good or interesting skill. Let's say Ray of Judgment is now a ground targeted area, and allies in the area get cleansed and get regen, and enemies get the already skill, so they get hit by the Ray of Light that you now would just get to one enemy, will get hit in a smaller version if they move in the area. So I feel like this is a buff, but I'm not sure if this is really the change where you would say, oh my god, I have to run focus now. I feel like this might be some kind of PvP side-noting build, could use that, but in PvE, if the damage number is not that high, you would not run that. I feel like the offhand weapons are so competitive on Guardian, or the two-handed weapons also, you would not use focus just for that, especially if you can't really get the block consistently to explode. So I feel like that's a nice change, but I'm not sure if focus will be the best weapon after that anyway. And then we have the big nerf here actually. So Guardian gets now the Binding Blade, will now actually just hit the original target. So you can't stack multiple of those very easily and get a lot of damage out of that if you stand in the enemy hitbox. They increased the power coefficient to counteract that, but I feel like this is still a nerf. So Guardian 5 Greatsword is still nerfed in damage, I would say. And then we have just, this is now these additional damage in the first strike. That's just a buff in competitive modes where you typically only hit the first strike and not the next ones because people might move out. In PvE, it's just a damage buff straight up. You get more damage on this symbol. And the 3 skill is just a little bit more healing in the first hit, while the second and third and so on will have lesser. I think there's just a little bit of juggling of the numbers, but not too much. The big buff that we get on Guardian is the line of warding, actually reducing the cast time over half. It's actually crazy. It's now like the Staff Earth wall from Elementalist. I think this is a big buff, and I feel like this is not only a big buff in World vs. World to Firebrand, but it's also a big buff to Firebrand as a healer in PvP. So I feel like this might be the way to make Firebrand even better. Maybe it's actually useful now in Conquest already. In Push it's quite good already, but maybe in Conquest now as well. This is just, yeah, flavor, I think. No more burning on this skill when you activate it. You wouldn't do that for the most part. It gives you passive condition damage, so no. And then no longer inflicts burning, and now inflicts blind and weakness. That's interesting because it's now a stun break. Actually makes sense to use if you really wanted to use as a stun break, because it actually inflicts weakness and blind as well. This is now granting protection, yeah, nothing too big. And then this trait now applies its bonus damage against enemies that are exposed. That's a big buff for Fractus, for example, and stuff, where you have actually exposed bosses that are not CC'd after that. Sometimes that happens in raids as well. So this is a nice buff, but Guardian overall doesn't change too much, which is okay because Guardian is already in a very good spot in all game modes, I would say. Yeah, it's definitely, I agree with you, person, there, that you can clearly see that this balance patch, or all balance patches, are really Ranger focused. Not focused, but Ranger gets a lot of buffs all the time. I think Ranger is one of the classes, together with Guardian, that always are really heavily focused and being good. I agree. Yeah, maybe you get a good Firebrand in Fractus, but I feel like nothing of this actually changes the Firebrand utility in PvE. I think Firebrand is completely untouched in PvE for the most part. Maybe Shield of Avenger can be useful because it now grants protection, but you can upkeep that anyway, so yeah. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about Mesmer. Mesmer is interesting. Mesmer doesn't get that many changes, but the changes it gets is actually quite impactful. So we have Phase Retreat, Chaos Armor, and Chaos Storm, just cooldown decreases, staff buffs in PvP and World vs. World. I guess that's fair, it was not that good. Then some X buffs, that's also good. And more importantly, they remove Power Block. So Power Block was now giving you 15-second cooldowns if you interrupted enemies instead of the normal 5 seconds. Now it's like, this is really important and really annoying to counterplay. Now it's just giving you a damage buff. and Furious Interruption now gives you Might in addition. So it means like if you go for a full interrupt build, you just get a more damage output. That might be useful, but I feel like this was really the big thing why you took this trade, is because you actually were able to negate the enemy for longer. So I feel like that might really be the downfall of Power Block, and we would not see that. It depends on the damage buff, of course, but I feel like not good enough for the most part in competitive modes. Was already not used in PvE, of course. Evasive Mirror, really bad trade now, has been reworked. Now it's Wandering Mind. Cleanses a non-damaging condition and gains swiftness in your evade and attack. I don't know what the ICT will be on this one, but I feel like this, if the ICT is long, which I expect it to be, it's not good. Anyway, you would typically not use that trade in all game modes, even after the rework. But if the ICT is really low, maybe you can actually use it, but most of the time, no. Then Chronomancer, again, like the Engineer, gets some reworked because improved Alacrity now doesn't give you critical strike damage anymore, but you will now get critical strike damage instead of critical strike chance from Danger Time. So it's just more crit chance if you take this trade, and that's the important part, crit damage from Danger Time, and more crit strike chance from Flow of Time if you have Alacrity, which should be in PvE in group scenarios or even in solo scenarios all the time the case. So that means that you just have to change your gear. You get more crit chance. That means that you probably will be able to run full Berserk instead of some Assassin pieces in there. This is a change that is annoying because you have to change your gear if you don't have full legendary gear rather. But if you have that, then it's a buff for just damage. It's a damage buff if you can use Danger Time as well. Depends a bit if you're full DPS Chronomancer or not, but it's a buff for Chronomancer, I would say, if the damage numbers and the crit chance numbers here are actually working out. We don't know exactly what it will be, but it's good. And Illusionary Reversion, it's a trait now that is somewhat underused because it's in a very competitive spot. Shatter skills generate a clone if you have enough clones present. It needs 3 clones, and now it grants Alacrity in addition to its previous effect. So that can be useful in competitive modes, but it would be, in my opinion, better if it would be Quickness, because then you can actually burst the enemy. I think Alacrity is something that is more passive, whereas Quickness is more aggressive, and I feel like if you shatter with 3 clones, it would be better if fitting, more suited to this if it would be Quickness. But I guess that's just how it goes. Then we have Mirage. Also, probably the biggest winner of the whole patch is Mirage, I would say. You just halved the cooldown of the split search. That's crazy because it was really annoying if you double dodged. It was not able to use it twice. Now you can. The power coefficient is in PvE is up. That makes Power Mirage even better, especially because the Doomcloak trait now reduces the cooldown of Mindflake and Cry of the Frustration. So that might be a competitor to Infinite Horizon, even in PvE, because it just gives you more F1 and F2 shatters. But this is very, very strong in competitive modes. This will now be insane. It's already run on a Power Mirage and will now be even better. It just gives you more damage output, which is really good for the Mirage lovers out there because it's a really strong power build already, and this will be definitely a very good pick, meta pick in PvP and maybe even World versus World for the split searching in big circs. They improved the boon radius on Chaos Vortex, that's nice. And they reworked the mirrored axis. It's now Phantom Pain and just gives you more damage based on the number of illusion shattered. Okay, that's good for damage build. I think this is very much helping the Power Mirage, of course. And if the damage bonus is actually also condition, then it might also help condition Mirage. But the biggest thing here is Mirage Mantle is now reworked, which now currently gives just ambush skills more utility. Now it's completely reworked, and this trait now causes ambush skills in general to grant wounds to nearby allies. This is really good because this will just make a support Mirage viable, because this will just give Alacrity in PvE and I think some other boon in competitive modes. And this is just now you can play every single Mirage as an Alacrity provider. It doesn't matter if you are Staff Mirage, you can play a Greatsword Mirage if you wanted to. Everything now can apply Alacrity if you use this trait. And this is really a big buff to Alacrity DPS Mirage. That makes it viable, I would say. So overall, Mirage, big winner in all game modes. And I think that's a good thing. What do you think about it? Let me know. Yeah, but I feel like overall, good thing, yeah. And by the way, don't worry, we will do some more pushing if you like to see some chaotic gameplay after this patch note review. So don't worry. And maybe we will also get some crazy build crafting. I wanted to try out some interesting builds in push. So who's the biggest winner of this patch? I personally think Mirage. I think Mirage is such a big winner, even though it only gets 5 changes. They are affecting all game modes, and they are just straight up buffs. Nothing here is actually considered. You can't consider anything here as a nerf. It's insane. But if you want the whole class overall, I think Elementalist is the best. Yeah. Let's see, how late is it? Yeah, we can do. I mean, what about the fractals today, Echo Fox? If they are annoying, I don't want to do them. But if it's okay, then we can do them after this. Yeah. It's fine to start with Soto, however, you will need material gold to unlock the munch. Yeah, exactly. I think starting with Soto is not a problem. Yeah, don't worry. Okay, so let's talk about Necromancer next. So Necromancer is getting some changes, and some of them are maybe considerable nerfs. So Mark of Blood is now also be able to trigger by allies. This is important, because now it gives a regeneration to allies very easily, and you can also dodge and give that as well if you run blood magic. That's good. Life transfer, just a straight up buff. That's a really big buff actually. Then reduce the aftercast of the skill. Veil of Doom, that's nice. Warhorn 4 buff. Then this is just a fix, I would say, that this is annoying with mounts. Lich Form gets some buffs. I don't think if that's really important. Signet of Suffering, I feel like this is also not that crazy. It's just a buff, but the trade is already not that good, I would say. And then we have Transfusion. Transfusion, that's the big thing here, is actually on Necromancer. Transfusion gets reworked, so you can't heal your downed allies anymore, and you lose a lot of healing from your 4 skill in Shroud. And marks can now be triggered by allies, not only Mark of Blood, but all the others as well. They will heal and grant additional supportive effects to allies when triggered. Create Chillbanes at your location when you use your 4th Shroud skill. So you get some healing when you use for 4th Shroud skill, so you don't lose the healing, but you lose the down skill stuff. So this is really good. Now, Mark of Blood grants Vigor now. Chillbanes heals and protection. The 4th skill removes conditions, and the 5th skill is stability. So overall, that just helps Necromancer to get more boons out, help your allies in a more active way, like Chronomancer and Druid, and you get more stability access. So in general, that's good for people that want to play it as some kind of supporter, but you lose the uniqueness of having the nice healing for downstate, and the Mercy Relic is dead because of that. So overall, I think it's a nerf to the very chaotic loving Scourge healer, but now it's more like a very uniform healer that, like every other healer, does a lot of heals, a lot of condition cleanses, a lot of stability, and a lot of boons in general. So the uniqueness of Heal Scourge is lost, but you get decent support, and I feel like this is especially important in World vs. World. You can now run Staff as a support Scourge or something, and you will actually help your team quite a bit, I would say. And then we have Glide, just a buff in PvE, just less health percentage decrease. That's good, I guess. Oh my god, that's insane. No, I don't want to do that, Echo Fox, I'm sorry. You only want to do yeah, if you only do the CMs, then we can do the CMs. Yeah, I would be in for the CMs. The T4 sounds horrible. I don't want to do the T4. Do you have any idea how can we know or predict sales for expansions? I actually don't know, but they are typically coming every few months. So if you just wait for 1, 2, 3 months, you will actually get it. So don't worry too much if you don't need it right now, or if you can wait for it. But if you, of course, enjoy it, maybe you should buy it anyway. I think it depends a bit on your situation. Maybe someone in chat actually knows. Yeah. Are you planning to do any kind of raids in the near future? I'm so eager to start that journey, but I'm afraid to get flamed. I mean, we can actually do some more raid trainings in the future soon. I just need to have more people that are interested in it. So if you're on my Discord channel, we can actually set up some training if we get enough people that actually would be willing to join. But I don't want to do it just for one person, of course. That would be not really productive. So yeah, we can do that. Okay, let's talk about Ranger. It's also not that big. Ranger is probably the smallest one here. just some buffs to Torch. Yeah, not really changing that much. It helps, but it's not crazy, especially in competitive modes. That will not change a lot. This now grants quickness, quick draw. I guess that makes sense. It's already called half like that. And light on your feet is now more useful because it gets it on every ranger skill that evades and increase the effect duration. So I feel like this is very good in all game modes now. If you play a Condi Ranger, really good there. Unstoppable Union now grants protection when entering or leaving beast mode. I guess that's a good thing. Then you have some Cleansing Unleashed, just gets a nice icon on the bar. And Biorhythm is now replacing Restorative Strikes, which is a nerf in some situations, but is a buff in the long-term solo builds for Untamed, for example. You lose the protection, but you get more healing up. And I feel like this is making Untamed even stronger in harder fights when you already have protection from skills. So this is actually, I think, an Untamed solo buff, solo build for PvE. But all the other changes here, okay, but nothing crazy. Ranger, not really any changes. I'm surprised that we don't get any Condi Soul Beast nerfs for PvP. I feel like there is a hotfix coming after the monthly AT today. So maybe we will get that before, because this is happening in a month now from recording of this stream and video. But I think there will be a hotfix to Condi Ranger before that. I'm on EU. I saw the Bladestone node in the warrior section and got excited. Then saw they only made some skills change, but still janky. Yeah, definitely. It's helping Bladestone, but it's not like completely a game changer. That's true. Okay, so let's go to Revenant. Revenant again, not too much of the changes. The biggest one here is at the bottom. The dodge of Vindicator in PvE now applies Alacrity, the healing dodge. This makes healing Vindicator viable, and this might be really interesting, especially in conjunction with this trait, heal and grant protection to nearby allies when you use a healing skill. So I think overall, healing Vindicator, Alacrity healing Vindicator is not a meme anymore. It's a really good build, or decent build at least, to play in PvE. I like that. It's not in PvP and World vs. World though, so don't get excited there. Then just some setup, that's what I talked about earlier in the stream. Outgoing healing effectiveness is increased instead of reduced incoming condition damage on this trait. So they really want to set up Renegade as a healer. This is not obviously making it worthwhile to do that, but if there comes some changes in the future, maybe we get a Renegade healer. I'm not sure if the community actually likes that, but that's what they want to do. Then they reworked the Malex. So we got now a lot of Torment on Banish Enchantment. We get a Dark Aura and Might on the healing skill. There's actually quite a lot of Might that you possibly can get, so it's actually quite nice. And this now grants access to a follow-up skill, Unyielding Impact. And this is actually a very hard-hitting follow-up skill with Burning, Torment, Poison, and damage, so it's actually quite nice. So depends a bit on the energy cost, but if it's nice in the energy cost, it can be a really good skill in competitive modes, or even in PvE if you want to play Condition Herald, for example, or even Condition Renegade, maybe, if this is enough damage. And then we get some changes to the traits so that you now get a lot of Dark Aura, and this just helps because Dark Aura siphons health from nearby enemies if you use that. I'm not sure if that's high enough to actually make it worthwhile, but at least it gives some more flavor. And this trait was not used anyway. So Brutality now does not remove stability anymore, which was a really, really strong skill. Now it's just giving you more damage when you strike a foe that has protection or stability. It's not as toxic anymore, but also not as strong anymore, I would say. And then Aggressive Arrival is now nerfed because it now gives resistance when legend swapping instead of a movement skill, because the movement skill was way better than the resistance on legend swapping, because oftentimes when you use the movement skill you wanted to get resistance. Legend swapping is more like you do that passively, but it depends on the duration. But still, I think decent changes for Revenant overall. Not too much. The biggest one is obviously Alacrity in PvE. Okay, so let's talk about Thief now. Thief is interesting because Thief, in my opinion, gets decent amount of reworks, and most of them are actually quite good. I think a lot of people would like that. So Black Potter gets buffed again with the initiative cost. We get initiative increases on Scepter 3 and 2. And this is, in my opinion, okay, because we get baseline initiative from Scepter from Spectre, this one here, is now not decreased. So Spectre now has reduced maximum initiative, and this will get removed. And that's just to counteract that Scepter stays in the same spot, to give it more initiative cost on the heavy skills. So overall, that's a Spectre buff, I would say, because those two skills stay similar, I would say. And you have more initiative at maximum that helps to use other skills as well. So overall, Spectre buff. Then Death Blossom, just a little bit more, I don't know, utility. Then you have Signet of Shadows now crowds Dark Aura. Okay, I guess with the traits that might be interesting. And overall, just Dagger Storm, Mark buffs, even the odds also are buffed, but not crazy, just some damage numbers changing here. Then we get some damage number with the reveal training, also base power up. That's a nice thing, but it's only in World vs. World and PvP, so maybe people will take that. But I feel like it's very aggressive, maybe not, we will see. Then increase the damage per condition, also just some damage numbers up. Then we get the Dark Aura traits here. That is very interesting because this is now giving Dark Aura to allies and also the barrier. So that might be useful as a support Spectre, or it definitely will be, because Dark Aura decreases the condi damage you take by 10%. Then it's quite interesting. Gain Dark Aura when you steal. Gaining Dark Aura heals nearby allies, especially with this trait. This can be really good because now you can even heal your allies with getting a Dark Aura or giving them Dark Aura. So maybe that's a new interesting trait setup. I'm not sure how high the numbers will be, but still. And then Cover of Shatter. When you steal, create a field around yourself that grants protection to nearby allies. Gaining Dark Aura removes a condition from nearby allies. So those three traits together can be really interesting in some kind of build where you get a lot of Dark Aura. Every time you jump through a dark field, you get Dark Aura, heal allies, you remove a condition. That can work. Maybe you can make some crazy cooks in competitive modes, but I feel like that's more like in PvE where this is actually useful. Then we have some Daredevil buffs. It's just, I don't know, it doesn't feel that crazy. This is just more initiative here. Then some buffs in the base healing here. Some endurance buff. Just stuff that is not used gets a small number changes. So this is the first class where you really see just a few number changes and one big rework with the Dark Aura. So I feel like they might help, but I'm not sure if they really change a lot. This now reduces Steel Recharge in addition to its previous effects. Maybe that's a reason why you now take it, especially in competitive modes. That can be really interesting. We will see if Daredevil comes back because of that. Probably not, but we will see. And then you can, this is the same treatment as the Greatsword 5 on Guardian, just a little bit more consistent how it works. And then you have unhindered combatant buffs, that it doesn't get the exhaustion anymore when you remove cripple. That's a big buff in competitive modes, and in general it's just buffed Daredevil for competitive modes. Apparently they really want to see it go back to where it was. And I already talked about Spectre getting buffed, but it also gets some interesting rework to Shade Step. So nowadays, you just every single attack that you do in your Shadow Shroud gives alacrity to your allies. Now it is depending on the skill that you use. So the 2 skill will give alacrity, and the 3 skill gives protection, the 4 skill heals, the 5 skill gives Aegis, and the 1 skill heals as well. So you will spam your 2 skill to give alacrity, and the other skills you will use if you need the wounds or the healing. So that's more interesting than just spamming the attacks, but it makes it also way more overloaded. It depends on the duration here. It's also regeneration apparently in PvP and World vs. World, so it's a very aggressively useful skill now. It's not only giving a blast finisher and removes conditions and torments and cripples and deals damage, but it also gives alacrity or region. So it's really overloaded, the skill. I'm not sure if I like that, but it's definitely more interesting than every skill that you do gives alacrity. I'm not sure. We will see if how that turns out. Welcome, Alison. Welcome. Yes, I did Necromancer already, but we can talk about it soon because it's actually, I think, the biggest change in all game modes. I think that's the biggest rework that is very debatable if that's a good thing. Yeah. Let's talk about Warrior before we talk about the relics. So Warrior just gets some X nerfs. I think they will not change too much. It's just helping a bit, but it's not the buffs rather. It's really not changing too much. They also buff main mace, also not that crazy, but they buff 100 blades and sadly not in a way that is actually affecting it. It's only in PvE. and it's only increasing the damage. That's it. You can't move anyway, and the cast is still the same time, so it's just a skill that is still not worthwhile to use in PvP and World versus World, and even in PvE it might be very punishing because you just cast it very slowly, you can't move. It's still not crazy. They wanted to keep the identity of the skill, but I feel like the identity just makes it very weak. So I think the biggest change that they should have made here, that you can move while casting it, but that's not what they want. Then we get some vulnerability instead of bleeding on the skill. I guess that's okay on the straight. You wouldn't use it for the most part anyway. And then you have Merciless Hammer damage increase and Stalwart Strength damage increase. That's just to help Hammer, Spellbreaker in particular, I would say, as a DPS weapon. Berserker gets way easier uptime of quickness now in PvE, and you also heal with Dead or Alive, but it's not really big changes to make this even better. It's just helping it to maintain quickness more easily, because currently it's quite tight. Now it's easier. And then Bladesworn buffs, just more flow increases, and just the damaging skills a bit more useful, I would say. But for the most part, it's Bladesworn is still a little bit gimmicky, but a little bit better than before. That's all the changes here are not crazy reworks for the most part. It's just helping a bit with DPS Bladesworn and PvE for the most part. I think in competitive modes, nothing will change for Warrior here. Yeah. I think the good part about this change is definitely that the Berserker now, if you have a Berserker in a pack group, now it was like you will probably not have quickness because they are just not able to upkeep it. Now it's way more likely that they actually can do that. That might be a bit of a meme and a little bit, aggressive, but I feel like a lot of people that played Berserker in pack groups were not able to actually do that. Now it's a bit better. Yeah. And yes, I did do Guardian. It's still completely fine. I would say Guardian is almost unchanged. Don't worry, Post. And if you want to see you can either watch the VOD, of course, if you want to have my full opinion on that, or I will also upload a YouTube video later today, so don't worry. Yeah, nice. Take your time, Malison. They nerfed Skullcrack 2 in these notes. They are reducing level 3 burst stun to... Is it really a nerf? Let me see. No, I think it's a buff. I think it's an. I think this is. I'm pretty sure this here is a buff. I think you are right. I think the normal skill here has 3 seconds. I think this is what it's currently. I think they just have. I think that this is just the wrong number. I think that this is a typo. I'm pretty sure in the balance preview when I looked at the number, I think it was 3 seconds. I think they're just buffing it overall. I think this is a typo. I'm pretty sure. I know. I agree with you. I'm completely smooth pineapple. I agree with you. It's 3 seconds. I think this is a typo. I'm pretty sure this is a typo. I think it's a buff. This is just a typo. It will get 250 milliseconds more stun in the end. I'm pretty sure. Because on the stream, I think I'm obviously not 100% sure, but I remember it to be just 3 seconds here and higher. Yeah. Willbender is insane, pause, don't worry. Willbender is really good in PvE, and Willbender is really good in competitive modes as well. It's a really good choice. So just stick with it. Really good. If you want to another class for DPS in PvE, you can go for Dragon Hunter. Dragon Hunter is also very good as DPS. Will this patch save Thief? I think it will help Thief in competitive modes, and it will make Thief more unique in PvE. I don't think it will save it. If you see it currently not being crazy good, because that's your take on the situation, then I feel like it will not change the take of you. I think it will stay the same. Do you think Condi Harbinger is nerfed a lot? No, not at all. Harbinger is actually buffed. Condi Harb is actually buffed. In PvE at least, yeah. Does the stun duration also increase the amount of CC? Yes. Yes, it does. So CC scales always with the stun duration. So the Defiance breakbar is higher when you have a higher amount of stun duration. Yes. Yeah. And then let's talk about the relics. So I make it a bit bigger so that you can see it better. So they don't have any names, they're just placeholder because they don't want to spoiler the story for us. So the first one, enemies you interrupt are afflicted with a unique damaging debuff. So that will be something like you interrupt them and they get a debuff, and after 3, 5, whatever seconds it deals some damage. This is interesting. I'm not sure how good that will be, maybe in competitive modes, but I feel like if the number is too high or too low, it will, I don't know if it has an impact. I think it's, the thing is, even if the number is really high on this damage, you still drop the relic for that. So you have to use a different relic. You can't use a defensive relic and stuff. So I'm not sure if that will be really big game changer. Depends a bit on the number here. The second relic, upon using a stance skill, cleanse conditions from yourself. They currently have it very aggressively balanced, that's what they said, with 2 conditions removed when you use stance skill. This is insane. If this comes out, this will come out, I think, on 3rd of June, so that will be before the balance patch. This will be the relics already. This will be absolutely insane in PvP and World vs. World. This is absolutely insane on a Soul Beast and on a Weaver. Those 2 are absolutely insane because those have crazy amount of stances and they are all really good. So I think this is a really, really good one, especially on a Weaver. I really see a stance Weaver, some kind of really obnoxious hammer Condi Weaver, absolutely crazy. Then Relic 3, upon using a cantrip or meditation skill, grant protection. Depends a bit on the duration, but most classes don't use that. Maybe Guardian has some meditations in a build. Maybe you can play some Core Guardian with meditations to gain protection, maybe. But I feel like typically, I'm not sure if that's really changing too much. Then Relic 4, grant yourself a stack of might when you grant might to yourself. So it's just giving you 2 stacks of might. Maybe that has an ICD. Gain increased crit chance while you have might at or above the stack threshold. That's just a very aggressive thing, and this is interesting because that's the first relic that actually gives you crit chance. Because in PvE, if you need more crit chance, that actually will just, in group scenarios, will just give you more crit chance. I think this is a really interesting relic because that might help classes that can't crit cap that easily to crit cap very easily with this relic. Depends a bit of the numbers here, but I feel like that can actually work decently well. Then we have Relic 5, gain volatility when you successfully combo a field with a blast finisher. Blasting at the stack threshold triggers an explosion, granting increased damage. Depends a bit on the damage number, but it's interesting if the damage number is high. This can be useful on some kind of elementalist, maybe some engineer builds, in PvE especially, but also in competitive modes, maybe this number is high enough to make it worthwhile, typically not. Then we have Relic 6, the last one, gain a stacking buff upon completion certain combat triggers, so you have to use a healing skill, elite skill, evade an attack, disable an enemy, finish the field, and everything has to be done once, and then you get an increase in stats and all boons for duration. That's really interesting. This is like some kind of, you go completely insane if you do those things. They have probably also an ICD, but if the numbers are big enough here, this can be really fun to use in some kind of PvP scenario. In PvE, I am not sure if that's really useful. If the stat increase is good, maybe, but the boons are completely useless for the most part. So I think this is a really cool, interesting relic, but might be a little bit harder to play around. We will see if the damage numbers and stuff are actually working out, but I feel like the relics are actually quite interesting this time. That's my take at least. We will see how the numbers are, but I feel like for the most part it's actually quite fun. I also made a Soul Beast for DPS PvE, so I have 2 options. Yeah, the Soul Beast is really good already, so I think Willbender and Soul Beast are a good combination for us. Yeah. I'm a new player in Guild Wars 2. I just wanted to say that I really appreciate the content and hard work. Yeah, glad that it helps. Really happy. Yeah, don't worry. Okay, that's my summary. Overall, I think the patch quite nice. A lot of changes, a lot of reworks. Some of this stuff debatable if it's good, but a lot of stuff actually helping the classes, and it's just more power creep. That's the summary, this balance patch, more power creep overall. Almost no nerfs, just buffs for the most part. Yeah, I guess that's how they want to balance the game now. Just buffing underused stuff and never nerfing stuff that is overperforming for the most part. I guess that's how they do it. Yes, we can share the link. Give me a second. This balance patch is coming at the 24th of June. If they remove one boon, Alacrity or Quickness, from Chronomancer, which would you prefer to stay? I mean, this is a very easy question, because if they remove Quickness, then Mesmer wouldn't have access to sharing Quickness anymore, because Quickness is only provided by Chronomancer. So I think they should remove Alacrity and give Alacrity only to Mirage. Yeah. Yeah, as a Bladestone man, you're happy. I guess it's just straight up buffs. It's just making it better to use and more utility and maybe even more damage. Yeah, I agree. I just finished gearing up my Condition Mirage. Should I hold learning the rotation for now? Oh, that's a tough question. The problem is, Condition Mirage, if you're talking about staff or something, go for it. It's really fun still. But if you're going for the really hard with X and stuff where you really have to learn the rotation, then I think it's still very good. It will get buffed after the patch, so overall really good, but it might change the gear and stuff. So maybe you should wait a bit. Maybe, I don't know. It's still a month out, so don't, it's like you wait 1 month and then maybe nothing changes. But I think the Condition Mirage, if you actually want to learn it, I think it's worth learning. I think they will not change the rotation after that, but I can't guarantee how much it will change. It can, it depends a bit on how much the damage numbers are actually affecting this. I would go for Willbender Jury, personally. Maybe you have to check out. I don't know. Normally it should work actually with the Discord. I don't know what's happening, Frederick. They buff Necromancer in a way. Harbinger gets a buff straight up, Malison. When it comes to, so Echofox, if you want to join, you can set up the party if you want. I can play healer if you want. So Necromancer, Harbinger gets a buff. The biggest thing about Necromancer is that they actually made it so that the staff skills. So currently, I can show it to you. Currently, staff is just damage and regeneration. That's about it. But they now changed it in a way that where am I? Oh, okay. So this is now giving regeneration, but it needs to be triggered by an enemy to actually apply the regeneration. And that's the same for the blood trade line. They get this dodge and it needs to thing here. But if you now change this, where is it? The transfusion trade here currently gives the shout skill 4, healing, and partially revives allies. This is really strong, 9 times 2%. So that means that revives allies almost instantly if you have the Mercy Relic, and it's insane how much value you get. But this gets reworked, and lose the trait completely, and it will buff your staff skills to actually be also triggered by allies. And they provide healing and boons. So this is a Condi cleanse, this will get some healing and protection, this will get stability, and this will get vigor. So it's really good as a healer, but you lose your unique utility of reviving allies with transfusion. So you will be a, so to say, very common healer. You have the same utility with it, but you lose the crazy uniqueness of the transfusion. So I think there are arguments for pro and con, because I think making it less unique is not good, but giving it more stability is a good thing, especially in competitive modes. This is a really good change, because it will actually give a lot of healing on your staff and even better usefulness in World vs. World, for example, if you run some kind of support variant. Yeah, we will see. If it takes too long, we have to do something else. But I think in overall, I personally like reworks like that, especially because I like stuff that changes your weapons. I really like that, especially Necromancer, for example, has that with Lingering Course already. So that if you run Scepter, you actually get a different skill by using this trait. And I feel like stuff like this is really interesting, but my opinion on that is that they should make it so that they should nerf stuff or alter traits that are not used. So for example, this skill is not very useful. Yes, it's not true. It can be useful, but there are some traits that are not that good. Yeah, and they should rather rework those traits than making traits that are already quite cool and unique gone. They should not rework traits that are already quite unique or in some kind of competitive spot. because that makes it more like you have to sacrifice something to make this work. It's more interesting if you want to buff something by making something that is not that good better, in my opinion. But I feel like that after all, it's their game, you know? If they want to make some experimental changes, that's what they need to do. It's not like I can tell them this is the thing to do. I think they already did some crazy good changes. So for example, if you look at Elementalist, I think the change that I like the most about Elementalist, I'm not joking actually, is the fire trait. This trait here now currently gives you might while you use a skill when you are tuned to fire. But when you leave fire attunement, you lose, I think, 10 stacks of might, yeah, maximum. And you will get some damage because of that to the enemy. This is a very punishing trait to take in competitive modes, but because losing 10 stacks of might is actually quite a big DPS loss. But they will remove this damage or this might removal, and now this is actually very, very worthwhile to run in competitive modes. You get might, and you will not lose the might after swapping out of fire. So I think this is really, really cool. And that they also remove this trait, which is completely useless. It's a really interesting interaction, but it's 8-second interval, you know, giving blindness on a foe when you burn them is like completely garbage in all game modes. And they completely remove that and make it completely different. Now you are burning scales also on power. This is also very interesting. So making this absolutely crazy bad, they will now make it way better because this is a trait that is just not useful. And that's what I like, making stuff that is very unique, very interesting, and maybe not crazy good, but at least it's very unique. That's why I like it. So overall, I think Elementalist is my favorite class in this patch for the changes that they made. But I feel like they make a lot of changes and not all of them are perfect. I agree. Nice, we actually find people. I like it. Okay, so I play quickness. Okay, and after this fractals, we will do some push. I want to play some more push because it's actually quite insane. I played some push in the last 2 days and I have a 75% win rate just solo queuing and trying out. I think I played in the 16 matches. I played, I don't know, 6 or 7 different builds. So push is really fun. I like it a lot. I want to get some more games going before it leaves again, and want to try some different builds. And I hope it's actually fun to watch for you as well, because last time we had some really close matches. So hopefully you will enjoy it as well. But first, let's do the fractals here. Is it no pain, no gain? It is not. Very good. As always, if you have any questions, any feedback, please let me know. I'm always happy to answer and debate stuff, especially with the balance patch. I think there's a lot of different things. Missed the segment of you going through the Elia changes. What do you think about auras giving alacrity? I think this is a really interesting decision that they make, that you now have 2 traits that provide alacrity, and one of them you take if you want to be a DPS elementalist, and one of them you take if you are healing elementalist. I think it's straight up a buff to healing elementalist, because as a healer, heal Tempest, you would always take the alacrity trait because you need to apply alacrity. But now you can actually take the healing trait, and this is a good thing. I like that in general. But it's also, I would say, a little bit of power creep, because now you have more skills that provide alacrity or traits. So I feel like it's good for elementalist players, but I personally think it's also not a good design decision to just buff everything all the time. I think they should also nerf some stuff, but in general, it's definitely a good change. Yeah. How would I build Renegade for push? So you would play it very tanky and play some kind of really annoying legend. So you definitely take the color legend, you take maybe Shiro, probably Shiro, and you take very annoyingly, you can take Spear with Sword Shield, and you take Salvation and Invocation. But I have it in my YouTube comments. Someone asked the same question, so you can actually just ask this as well if you or look it up there under the push tier list actually, if you wanted to get the full detailed. I linked the build there as well. I'm really new to Guild Wars 2. I've unlocked shields on Mesmer, but can't understand why it won't allow me to use the shield abilities. So if you unlocked it, then you should, I mean, if you're level 80 and you swap your weapons, typically they should actually work. You know, I don't know what actually is the problem for you. Maybe someone in chat knows, because I have never played without shield, so to say, so I don't have that experience. More alacrity. You can only pick one of those, but if you're healing Tempest, the one that actually is valuable to you is now also providing alacrity, because before you had to take the DPS alacrity trait, which is obviously not very useful as a DPS player, as a healer, and now you actually are able to get the healing trait and get access to healing and alacrity at the same time, which should have been there in the first place, in my opinion. Could you make later some guides how to prioritize combo fields with finishers? So this is interesting, because the answer to that is more like the priority of your combo fields is the one that was created first, is the one that you prioritize, and you prioritize your own combo fields. This is the priority. Are the combo effects visible in Arc DPS? I think so, yes. I've equipped the shield, the ability to be on the bar, but grayed out. Yeah, typically that's the case if you have, for example, shield, you have to be a Chronomancer, or you have to have Soto weapon proficiency unlocked. If not one of those is the case, then you can't equip a shield. That's probably the case for you there. So if you don't have the Soto expansion, you will not get access to shield on all the elite specs. And if you have Chronomancer, you can have it without Soto as well. I hope that answers the question. Okay. I don't really know if I care about the extra healing you get. Yeah, I think I agree with you that it's not the most, it's not the most insane buff, but at least it's something, It depends a bit on if you're able to upkeep alacrity permanently, which should be the case in my opinion, because if not, that's actually insane. That would be an insane nerf. Oh my god. But, oops. Yeah, but I feel like this is just a buff for healing elementalists. That's the thing here. Yeah, every other, so for example, alacrity quickness, alacrity Condi Tempest, or alacrity Power Tempest, they will not be affected by this change, which is interesting to have two different traits for healers and Power alacrity and Condi alacrity providers, but I guess that's what they wanted to go for. Yeah, so with the Soto expansion, you can use the shield on all elite specs, so you can also use it on Virtuoso. But if you don't have that yet, or if you don't have the story step unlocked yet, then you can't do that. Yes, don't worry. Glad we could sort that one out. Did they buff other healers instead of nerfing Chromo? Yes, that's what they did. But for the most part, I would say they buffed Elementalists to some extent, but all the other healers, they did not touch a lot. It's like healers were completely untouched for the most part. The only healer that was touched was Necromancer, and I would say it wasn't even in a good way. That's the weird part. I think Heal Scourge was like changed to be different, to be more homogeneous, not like very unique anymore. Which is okay, but I would rather have something that is more unique than useful in every situation. But I guess that's just my personal take on the matter. Because now you lose the ability to resurrect allies very easily. Now it's more like you're just a very typical healer and you don't have any other typical unique traits anymore. I think I tried it on my Mesmer about a week ago. It's nice. Yeah, I agree. It's really good. I think it must be done. Must be do with the story quest. I used a level 80 boost, so I guess I need to, yeah, exactly. You need some unlocks, you need some story quests first. It's one of the first story missions in Soto, and then you actually get access to the shield on every elite spec on Mesmer. Yes. Scourge itself, I would say that the thing is for Scourge itself, Scourge didn't get changed at all. It's only... Why is no one going? What? Did I miss something? Okay. So, yes, I would say overall, Scourge stays the same, but it's obviously affecting it quite a lot by the transfusion nerfs, or changes, because that's obviously something that transfusion was the key difference maker. And now it's more like a skill that is somewhat good, but not as broken or unique anymore as it was before. Can you explain the mechanic on that boss with the ad on the platform? So the ad on the platform is really weird. So one player gets targeted by a tether, and I'm really saying only this player can see this ad. And that means that this player has to kill the ad. If you don't do that in time, when the boss gets invulnerable at 33 or 66%, you will actually die. Yeah, so this is the first part. And so that's why you also have to have some DPS as a healer, because you might be the one that gets tethered. And if you are the one that gets tethered, you need to deal with the ad, even if you're a healer. So you can't say, I'm the healer, I don't want to do it. But yeah. Is the patch live? No, the patch will go live at 24th of June. So it will be almost a month. I think it's exactly a month, actually. Yes. So you have a lot of time to actually theory craft builds and stuff. So yes, it will take some time to actually go live. Do you think Malek's changes can get Condi Renegade better? I think overall Condi Revenant will get better with the patch. I'm not sure if it will make it so that it's absolutely good again as it was before. I think that's unlikely to me, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's actually enough to bring it back. Depends a bit on the damage number of the new buffs. Yeah. How do I know if I get tethered? I mean, it's a wide line. You see that if you maybe watch the VOD of the stream or just watch another stream, you see it. It's a wide line to you. You see it quite easily. It's like a laser beam. Yeah, and you also have a debuff. Yeah, good point. The patch preview, yes, I can. Is it? Give me a sec. Here's the link. Yeah, good point by Hubby. You actually don't need to see the tether. If you see an enemy, you can jump to it. You know, you are the only person that sees the enemy. So if you, so to say, see an enemy, you know it's you that is tethered. Good point. You don't even have to see the tether. Yeah. Change back. And then I use the grab hog to get to the platform and kill the ad before the AoE. Exactly. That's the idea. Just be careful that if this happens, sometimes this happens, of course, not during the invulnerability phase, sometimes before then as well. If you go there, you should be sure that you actually go back without having the one-shot attack happening. You know, the AoE thing. If this is happening where everyone has to split, if this is happening, wait a bit on the platform, because you might go into an AoE and die because of that. That's just a tip from speaking from experience here. Might happen very easily to newer players. I got my butt kicked in this before I learned it. Yeah, exactly. I think this fractal is like, there are 1 or 2 mechanics that you have to understand, but if you understand them, you know, the look away mechanic and the split mechanic and the add mechanic, it's like 3 mechanics. If you understand those 3 mechanics, the fractal is completely, it's like easy. It's like a choke actually for challenge mode. I'm not stressing that enough. I think this is one of the easiest challenge modes in the game, to be honest, because it's not really having any, I don't know, challenging mechanics other than the few things that are happening there. And I feel like it's also quite boring, but that's just my take. I actually didn't check if we can upkeep swiftness, but it's fine. Apparently it's good enough. Always forget to check that. Because I'm a chronomancer, I don't have perfect swiftness uptime, apparently. No, we didn't get the CC. That's fine. Was quite close last time anyway. Yeah, if you have any questions related to the fractal or whatever, please let me know. I'm always happy to explain stuff as well. Of course, I don't know how much experience you have with the fractals, so I can't explain always what you are actually wanting to know. But if you ask the question, I of course can do that. Nice, looks good. And that's the phase where I really want to really be a chronomancer and not be some kind of other healer. So if you have a bad healing firebrand here, this is the phase where you really struggle a lot. Because they don't know how to dodge, and that you need to dodge to actually heal decently, or that you have not enough just overall barrier application, for example. So just a very common mistake here from healers to not actually heal the group decently well enough. You can see if I'm Chronomancer, I can keep them topped off all the time. Also can apply my boons. So it's really important that you know what you're doing here. Ooh, they run away. Is there a trick to play Spear Catalyst in PvP? The trick to it is that you have to play really aggressive. You know, you play a very aggressive weapon that has some baseline defensive skills or sustain skills in there, yes. But most of the time, if you can't play aggressive enough, you will lose a long fight because you are very aggressive in terms of how you have to play it. And if you can't do that consistently enough, can't kill your enemy in a short fight, then you will probably lose because the sustain of you is not that high, only if you have a support. So play very aggressive and try to kill the enemy before it kills you, obviously. And in general, I would say it's not the easiest class to play. Let's leave it at that. You need a lot of practice to actually perform on it. If you are new to the class, it's not a very easy access to actually learning it. No, we didn't get the instances here, I guess. That's fine. Fractals are more boring than fishing? Really? I mean, that's a hot take, I would say, but I guess fair. I mean, it's not for everyone, that much is for sure. I personally like fractals. I don't do them every day nowadays anymore because I don't need to or don't want to all the time. But I personally think it's actually quite fun. At least the newer, the more interesting ones. Not the newest ones, I don't like those, but the more interesting ones, the Nightmare CM, for example, or Shadow Observatory, those I actually like quite a lot. Guys, thanks. Yeah, hot takes, I would say. I think fishing, a lot of people would agree that fishing is not very fun, or this is somewhat boring. But that fractals are more boring than fishing, that's a hot take. I think that I wouldn't agree with that one. I think fishing is actually quite relaxing. I would say that much. But I personally think fractals are way more interesting than fishing. But of course, if you played fractals every day for the last, let's say, 6-7 years, maybe then it's different. Oh no? How did you die? Oh my god, my CC here. It was really... The CC was highly on edge, I have to be honest here. And 2 people died here, but we did it. Make the CC ready. Wait a bit longer, please. No. It was probably too early. Don't have enough DPS for that. It's fine. It's fine. We will do it anyway. Or maybe we are fine anyway. They was very good when doing them first time, but they become boring with time. I agree, obviously. That's like the case with every PvE content. That's why I try out different classes and have different stuff going on. But of course, you're right. If you do stuff every single day and do that for years, then obviously it's boring at some point. That's why we need more content that you can farm. New content, new farmable content. That's what we need. Ah, is it? Okay, yeah, I can do that. Fishing is chill and not that bad with good music. Yeah, I agree. It's very relaxing, but I wouldn't say that fractals in general are less, I don't know, less interesting than fishing. I think it's just you like fishing currently more because it's more like a relaxing thing to do, which fractals might not be. Yeah, fair point. Welcome, Otterish. Welcome. Hope you had a nice morning so far. So we can pre-stack here. Finally, again, some pre-stacking. Let's go. First morning in about 2 weeks, I'm able to do what I want. Yeah, that's obviously, I really like when I am able to do what I want. It's horrible if I have my plan of the day already like set in stone. I can't do what I actually wanted to do anyway. I agree with you. Happy that you can do that, and actually that you also want to join my stream when you want to do what you, or when you can do what you want to do. Thanks that you are here then. Hope you enjoy the stream. We had some big discussion about the balance patch or the upcoming balance patch already. So this will be an interesting time when it comes out for sure. 6 AM here, it's quiet here. Very good. Yeah, it seems like you're a very early bird, Melissa. But I like it because then you can actually catch my stream. Good. I mean, normally on Tuesday and Wednesday I stream obviously at evening my time. So maybe you will be able to catch that stream anyway. But if you are on NA currently, it's quite early. That much is for sure. Very good. Do we have a portal? Not sure. We have a thief. So apparently the thief can portal us. Let's see if people remember that. Do you like traveling? And what is your favorite land you'd like to travel to or would like to travel to and why? That's an interesting question. So I personally, I'm a weird person. I like to be at home, you know? I'm a gamer. I like to be at home and use my time and, I don't know, create content for you, play games. But I don't mind traveling. I was actually traveling quite a lot in my life already. So I think I really liked Norway. I think that's a weird answer, but I think this is one of my favorite countries to actually be in. Norway has such an interesting flair of being completely unique in what it actually looks like. It's like the mountains very close to the sea. I really like this one. So this would be my answer. If I had a single thing that I would choose, this would probably be the country that I like. Yeah. People leave the archers after 33, that's why you see them. Sometimes you see archers before 66 too, because people leave them up. The only times it's mandatory that all archers are dead in the platform. Yeah, exactly. The problem is with the archers, if you keep them up, they will also do the eye mechanic at some point. And then you might get feared down, or you don't have a place where you can look away from the boss anymore. But if you kill them consistently, especially before the phases, it's actually quite nice if you do that, because then the phase will be over sooner, the transition between 66 and 33%. But if you, I mean, it's not necessary to do so. If you have a decent group, it actually can be done without doing the archers for the most part, because the DPS can be good enough that you don't get punished for it. Just be aware, if you get tethered and you die with the tether, no one else can do the mechanic and we have to reset. So always really strictly try to play it safe and stay alive when you get tethered. Yeah, glad we had. Yeah, Alaska is also really nice, I agree. It's just very far away from my location here. And it's also, I think they have a lot of wildlife. So sometimes you have a lot of, for example, how's it called? Mosquitoes. That can be a bit annoying if you go to the wrong time, but I think the nature and the landscape looks amazing. I agree. Yeah, Greenland is also very interesting. It's not a very, very vivid location, but it looks very primal. I liked it as well. I would definitely like to take a look at this as well. Is everyone here? I think we're missing someone. We're missing Echo Fox. Where are you? Thanks for the follow, Exe and Linus. And thanks a lot for the Prime. Really appreciate it. Hope you're enjoying the stream. Yes, yes, yes. Always blame the healer. I know. Yeah, the cat is cute. That's why I put it there. I like it also as well, of course. That was close. Some nice seeing, yeah. Our DPS is actually not that high, I have to admit. Why is our Willbender? Is it also burning Willbender? Yeah. That's why you don't play condition builds here. Just for your information, this is a very power-heavy fractal. If the 2 DPS that play Condi have the same DPS in total as the DPS player that plays power, you know actually what the problem is. But it's fine. We will clear it anyway. Don't worry. Don't have stability here. I just went to our Discord and listened to the symphony. Perfect. It's really good. I like the music a lot. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's what we want to do. We do a new label record and want that we actually publish music. That's the only thing that I will now do with together with Snowdrop. We will just do music out of really interesting comments on stream. So for the people that don't know what this is a reference to, we had some AI music going on in our Discord channel, and it's actually I'm really surprised how good this one is. It's really fun. We just had some lyrics made from our viewers here and from random comments that I made on stream and stuff, and it's actually it is really fun actually how good the music actually sounds with this random lyrics and rather, so to say, random music in the background, but it sounds surprisingly well. Yeah, I will do, don't worry, Ginseng. I actually will do, probably if it's allowed from the licensing, I will put it in my background music for streaming as well, because I like it so much. So you will hear it at some point as well. So yeah. Look at, you were top DPS. Yes, now. Now, I was just saying that it's actually surprising that at some bosses you clearly see the difference between a power and a Condi build. That was close and greedy, but okay. We have poetry and music and art, all welcome. Yeah, I agree. It's actually surprising what nice stuff we actually have in our Discord server. My bad. Forgot to put on the feedback. Or I put it on too early. It's fine. I hope. Nice, we got the CC. Quite clean. You just have to be careful because we apparently have a Condi person going to the anomaly. Sometimes that's not good enough if you can't kill it in time. I will try to help out. I'll have some DPS as well, I guess. Oh my god. We should go to the anomaly, please. Whoever has it, you should go to the anomaly. No. Oh, that was close. That's a quite scuffed run, I have to be honest. This is one of the more scuffed runs I had in a while. I like staying on dagger, going into P3 and P5 to help with the anomaly and pre-casting boons on rival. I agree. I think this is a good point by Millet here, that the dagger is really helping here if someone has enough DPS to burst down the anomaly, especially if this group apparently plays 2 Condi DPS here. So we have to be really careful here. Good point. I mean, I'm not the best fractal player. If you have noticed, I'm decent, but not the best. So take tips from the really good guys here, like Millet Noy. Okay, so concentrate a bit. Where is everyone? Ah, there they are. No, I don't have it. Maybe I can. No, I don't have the invulnerability yet. It's actually quite a scuffed run. I'm really surprised how scuffed this run is. Why is everyone dead? What? Hope it's not my healing here. No. I can't heal you. Why are what is happening here? We have to reset. Guys, please. They are just running away with the green mechanic. That's interesting. And they don't do the boars correctly. I don't know. It feels really, really bad. What is going on? I mean, I try my best to keep you alive and stuff, but it feels like it's really insane. That was actually, with running away with the green was like, this guy really wanted to kill us there. It was actually, ooh, impressive. I mean, I don't mind, you know, I'm just in for the fun here and for some content, but this was actually close to grieving. I have to admit that one. So please kill the anomaly here. Okay. Okay, this looks, for now, looks decent. Okay. But I think the chaotic things will go on. After this, we will do some push, and I really think if I play PvP today, I really on the weekends it feels like even worse. The PvP is like you get people that stack on point, and I can one-shot them as a willbender, and the enemy team plays as a 5 pre-made team. So that will be insane. So if you like chaotic stuff on my stream, be sure to stick around. This will continue like that. Don't worry. So for now, give this some healing because I fear this guy will die again. I don't have it up now, so we have to jump it. I've been enjoying push as Willbender, but I have a hard time not dying. Yeah, I think that's Willbender. I have a match where I didn't die at all. It was a 10-minute match, and that was the reason why we won, because I didn't die. So I feel like if you play a build like a Willbender, you really, really have to understand that you are very squishy, and if you can survive while dealing damage, you will win. If you die all the time, then you might have fun, but you might not win the match. So it's really like you have to, you know, you have to live on the edge all the time. And this is what I like about push, because you can play out different builds that you would normally maybe not run like that, and maybe have some kind of crazy fun because you play some crazy burst builds or something like that. But you have to be really, really careful to not overcommit too hard, because you're playing against 5 people. If they focus you, especially if you are playing some kind of melee build like a Willbender, you have immense damage coming into you, especially when you get the debuff as well. I like the push game mode. I will release a video about it tomorrow where I talk about what actually is my opinion on it, what they should improve on. But for a lot of times, I would actually say it's very fun for the casual PvPer. That much is probably the best summary, and I like it a lot because of that. It's fun to engage, very fast paced to engage. No, it's me that is doomed. Oh no. That was a close one. Oh, that was close. Our DH is not really on point. That much is for sure. Some stability. Nice, we did it. I use my stun breaks way too early. Yeah, I mean, this is the hardest part about PvP in Guild Wars 2 is like being patient, knowing when to stop using your attacks and not always using them just because you can use them. That's really important. If you use the reflect ability, do you also need stability? So yes, you should use both, because you will only reflect the boys and not the knockback of the attack. So of course the boys are the dangerous thing because they do damage, but of course if you want to keep the DPS up, you should also use stability. That's why Chronomancer is so good, because it can actually do both of that very easily, instant cast, so to say. Oh no. Social awkwardness. So annoying. A Willbender has to hit the burst or else he is an easy target. Yeah, I think you have to understand go in, go out, go in, go out. That's how you play Willbender. But obviously the go out part sounds way easier than it actually is, because you have to go in, you actually have to use your mobility skills as well. And that's obviously not something that you actually... Okay, they don't want to have boons. That's something that you have to learn. I mean, sometimes it works. Sometimes the enemy team is too smart to actually do that consistently. You know, it's like you always have to play it and adapt to it. Especially if the enemy team has a lot of condis, you have to play even more carefully because you are quite weak against condis. So it's always a bit like, yeah, just learning, get more experience, and you will actually be the Willbender god in no time, especially if you have some experience in PvE, of course, as already. Yeah, I mean, it's fine. Play what you like. You don't have to play Scrapper. You can play whatever you think is the best for you. Oh, come on, guys. No CC. I had to CC completely alone. It's fine. Yeah, I agree with you that the strategic gameplay that you have in Conquest is not there, and that makes it easier for someone that just wants to have some fun in PvP to get into it, definitely. But I feel like it's not the best game mode for new players either, because you always fight 5 people. That means that you always have a lot of visual clutter happening at the same time, and it's very hard to understand what actually killed you. You know, there is always something that is actually happening on the screen. There will not be a single attack that you say, oh, this one actually killed me. No, there are like 25 attacks at the same time, and so it's still hard to actually get into the game mode. So I feel like it has its cons as well. It's like not the perfect solution for this. I never know which skills to keep to get back out. Yeah, I mean, we can try and play some Willbender after this. Maybe I can show you a thing or two, but I'm not the best PvP player either, you know. I'm just casual platinum player. That's where I am typically. Oh, that was a lot of damage. Don't forget to swap to focus. I have to remember that. Always forget that. Well, sometimes forget that. So where is it? There we go. I have to focus. Yeah, it's like Aram. It's exactly the same. It's like, yes, it's very fun to play, but it's not particularly easy. You know, it's like just very casual. That's the difference. It's not like it's absolutely easy. It's not like you will actually understand the game way easier there. That's good comparison. Yeah, definitely. Playing Willbender is like the... yeah, exactly. You go in and go out. I mean, that's if you play a DPS build that is melee in push, you have to play it like that. Thieves are like that. Mirages are like that. You can't go always like staying in all the time, especially with the debuff mechanic. It's like really you really have to play it safe. You get some damage down, and if it doesn't work, even if it does work, you have to go back out because you don't have the cooldowns to support you to actually say, I'm staying in there for all the time. It's just not like that. Willbender got nerfed too much to actually make this possible. But that's the same for all classes. I think that's how it should be. It should not be that you play a build that just have the damaging skills up all the time. You know, if you dodge the enemy skills that are aggressive, you should be rewarded by not having to get damaged in the next few seconds. That's how it should be, in my opinion, for sure. I made a 0 KP 100 CM fractal group and we crushed it. I mean, congrats then. I feared this is actually one of the most annoying things to do as a 0 KP group, but I guess good job on you then. What is your main focus in the game, Summer? Actually, I would say the main focus is playing for fun. I play every single game mode. I play whatever I currently have like is the most fun to me. I have everything in the game. Like I have so many legendaries. I don't know, I'm just playing the game for fun at this point, you know. I play PvP, I play World versus World, I play everything, and I try to make content for you, you know, build guides, just interesting debates and tier lists and stuff. So I'm always open to suggestions what I could do, but it's currently I'm actually don't really playing the game for a specific goal anymore. You know, I had the goal getting all the unlocks on my guaranteed wardrobe unlocker. I have that now, so there is no real goal anymore for me, like playing the game. I've been having an easier time to hovering at distance with Power Harbor than when I see someone break off. I manage with, yeah, that's a good point. That some classes are like the pick off, like you to play some kind of thief playstyle. If you see someone that is weak, that is actually not, you know, not playing perfect in the group anymore, then you can pick them off. That's the same with Power Harbinger, and maybe some, even Spear Catalyst might be somewhat similar. But Spear Catalyst is actually quite good as well to just pressure the point because you have so much AoE. So I agree that there are some different playstyles there, and some of them are easier than others. But I feel like all of the playstyles in Push are a lot of fun. You just have to adjust to the situation. But sometimes sometimes I have to be honest. Sometimes it's like the team comp of the enemy team, the team comp of your own team doesn't let you do that. Then you have to be really, I don't know, really careful. Better put up some marker. The person. Okay. Yeah. I'm an old player, slowly returning to the game. I'm digging your YouTube content. Glad you like it. Glad you like it. If you have any feedback, anything that you want to see, any just comments on what I can improve, I'm always open for that as well, so don't worry. But glad you like it. The classic Reaper saying you stay, I had to do mechanics and dodge. Yeah, weird people. Yeah, it's weird. This is an 8k KP group, and it really looks, it doesn't look like it, I have to be honest. Our Thief is actually decent, but our Willbender is actually, it feels like it's not, I don't know, it looks a bit weird, I have to be honest. Yeah, 8k is quite low, but the thing is, it should be decently enough to actually have a, you know, some experienced players. You know, 8k at this point, what is this, like a year of, no, not a year, but maybe half a year of doing CMs every day, and they still don't know how to deal with the mechanics. That's what I find really weird, you know. But I agree, of course, it's not like 100k where you say this has to be perfect. Yeah. It's like 5k. Okay, so you put it down. Still, it's not the best experience for a 5k group. It's fine. I don't care. You know, it's like if we succeed, I'm happy enough. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what if you're doing it with a static of some kind of Snowcrows tryhard groups, Millard. Maybe you have some crazy experiences there, but of course, for me as a streamer that just pucks fractals all the time, that I don't have high expectations anymore. That's just how it goes. I'm getting into learning more advanced content. Is there anything I can find good weapon rotations? I mean, I would highly recommend you if you play PvE. I would recommend Snowcrows. It's a really good resource if you want to have just resources for every possible build that you can play. But if you want to have more YouTube content, then you can of course also check out my YouTube videos about it. Of course, I don't have every single build there, but quite a lot already. And if you're talking about competitive modes, I feel like it's always important to stress that there are not really rotations in terms of how much, what stuff you actually have to keep doing, what you should use at the time, but you have to adjust to the situations. So sometimes it's like you have to go in and do DPS. Sometimes it's more like you have to play defensive. It's more like you have to understand what kind of skills do what. This is the important part here. But for a new player, I would say there are some combos, of course, that you can do, and I always mention those in my videos as well. So best thing that I can mention here is probably check out some streamers, some YouTube content from people, and to actually understand how to play a specific build, a specific thing on a specific class. Yeah. The problem is discretize, as far as I know, is not updated anymore. And especially with the next few balance patches, I think there might be some heavy gear changes coming to specific classes, like Chronomancer, for example. And I think that's a problem for sure. Oh my god. I'm not sure if I can get the dress here. Nice, we get it. Yeah, like I said, Hubby, it's insane if you're not doing any DPS and you still get to like this amount of fractal KP. It's insane to me. I don't know how you would actually achieve that. You know, it's like the same if you killed Xera like 10 times and you don't understand where you have to go to tank. It's also crazy to me, but apparently that's what people do. Is Heal Firebrand still viable? It's really good in fractals, yeah. Don't worry. Chronomancer is quite good in fractal CMs. It's one of the best ones together with Heal Firebrand if you play it well. Yeah. Yeah, they have decent builds for sure. It's not like it's completely not usable. It's just sometimes you have to be a little bit careful and double check if you actually met the required amount of stats. That's the only thing I'm saying here. I noticed a lot of them are not updated anymore. Yeah, I think it depends a bit on what kind of build you're looking at. Some of the builds are actually still updated because they didn't change, but some builds are obviously not updated if it's not perfectly up to date, the website. Yeah. I guess we did it. Good job. Heal Firebrand is like you have a very high actions per minute gameplay if you want to perform perfectly well on it. But the problem is it's not that easy to play if you want to start out because you actually have a decent amount of skills to press to actually upkeep your healing and your boons. So even if you want to play it somewhat casually, you have to press a lot of buttons. So yes, you're right, the skill ceiling is high, but the skill floor is also somewhat high. That's why a lot of Firebrands, I encounter at least, are not that good at the game. And that means that you actually lack healing, that you lack boon uptime, your positioning matters a lot. So if you want to know how to play Heal Firebrand, I have a very long, well not very long, but a somewhat long dedicated guide on my YouTube channel where I explain in detail how to play this and where to position and what that kind of stuff, how it works. So this is really, really important. Yeah, no problem. Glad you did it in the end, Echo Fox, no worries. So let's play some push, I guess. I'm a new player in Guild Wars 2 and start with the Guardian class and like to later with Willbender. Is it a good class in PvP World vs. World? Yes, it is. Willbender is just generally one of the best specs in the game, in all game modes. So I think Willbender might not be the best in every single slot, but in PvE it has good DPS builds, even healer and elect DPS builds. It has very good DPS builds in PvP, and it has very good, yeah, I would say good builds in World vs. World as well. It might not be the most broken class in World vs. World anymore, but in PvP and PvE, it's a very, very good pick. Yeah. So don't worry, don't worry. Yeah, I think the problem with a Heal Firebrand is like that a Heal Firebrand, I can show it here as well, that you have a lot of stuff to keep track of, you know? It's not like a Chronomancer where you just press like your F skills on cooldown and cast the Phantasm with your rival every now and then and you will be fine with the alacrity and because it's around you and it's very easy to upkeep. No, on Firebrand you have to position yourself correctly, you have to understand which skill gives which boon, and you have to understand that your healing is very, how can I say, it's not that easy to burst heal if you don't position yourself correctly, and you have to understand that a lot of your skills are locked, so to say, behind your tomes. So that means that you have to swap in your tome, then use your skill, then swap to another tome to actually get, for example, the blast finisher off if you want to get more area heal. Stuff like that. It's very actions per minute heavy because there's a lot of stuff that you have to understand at first to actually get to this amount of, so to say, gameplay that actually helps the group. It's not something very easy with just pressing one button. But I think if you enjoy the playstyle of that, it's very worthwhile to learn. You have in the baseline kit so many good things. You have resistance, you have even reflect, you have stability, you have even toughness for your allies, you have a lot of Condi cleanses, you have crazy amount of boon uptime, you have CC in the baseline, you can even play some aggressive Firebrand with burning and stuff. So there is so many good things that Firebrand has in the toolkit already. So it's like very worthwhile to get into, but you have to acknowledge at the beginning that it's not the easiest journey you could make for a healer. Definitely. I would say Guild Wars 2 is quite easy to have multiple characters. So you could see I have 70. Obviously, it's way too much. Not a lot of people would need that many. But if you play the game for a long time or decent amount of time, you actually get a lot of those Tomes of Knowledge. I mean, I have obviously a lot of them, but you might have the decent amount of them as well. And you can easily level your character to level 80. And then you have everything that you used on your normal character. You can actually equip at this other character very likely as well. Especially if you're legendaries or ascended gear, you can swap that around easily. So Tomes help a lot with that. Yeah, don't worry. How should I play my Guardian to level 80? Which weapons should I choose? I mean, choose the one that you like, you know? Leveling in Guild Wars 2 is a one-time journey. It's not something that is very hard. You can play whatever weapon you actually enjoy playing and try out different ones. It's not like you should go for the most optimal one. Play the one that you enjoy and you will get there quite fast anyway. So play what you like, and at level 80 you can go and look up the meta build that you would play on the specific Guardian spec. That's how I would do it, yeah. And if you want to have the highest DPS, I would say probably something like a Greatsword with sword and maybe, I don't know, focus offhand or something if you only have core weapons at the moment, something like that. But that will, obviously, if you have expansions, you can get the other weapons later. But like I said, it's just have fun during this journey. Yeah. Yeah, if you're Mesmer, Echo Fox points it out correctly. Mesmer leveling is one of the most annoying things to level because you don't have really good weapons. It's like Mesmer is like one of the most annoying classes to level because the core spec is just very weak, or at least very support focused. Oh my god, what do we have here? Maybe this is a Firebrand match. I'm not sure if I should play DPS here. If I play DPS here, we get cooked. We don't have any support. Maybe that's a support scrubber. That would be interesting. No, it's not. Yeah, that's a Firebrand game, I have to be honest. Maybe we get a Willbender game after this one, but this is not a place to play without a support. This would be horrible. Yeah, you can use characters for a lot of things. So people typically use it to get birthday gifts that give you some more boosts and stuff. You can use it as storage characters. That's what I do. You can use them to have different characters for different game modes, so that you can have multiple build templates and gear templates without buying them, actually just getting the character. So there are multiple ways to do it. You can also use them, for example, to park at a specific location and open chests every day without going to the jumping puzzle, for example, stuff like that. There are multiple things to do that. It's more like you should think about what you want to get out of a character slot that you buy. Only then it's worth it. You can also farm blackline chests every week if you want to, keys rather, every week if you want to do that. There are multiple ways to do that. Yeah, at least you can level with spear, that's true. Okay, so let's see, what do we have here? We have probably a core guardian support. We have 2 Reapers in the enemy team, probably Condi. If that's not a support scrapper, we have a very good comp. But let's see. Yeah, it's not support. Oh my gosh. That's have to help out this guy, I guess. Yeah, nice. I think we won the fight so far. Yeah, looks good so far. Now we just have to take care to stagger them a bit, not kill the guys, so that they actually have decent staggered respawns, and we will be fine. Is Heal Firebrand good in PvP? No, it's actually good. It's actually a good build. We're a bit overcommitting here. I have to help my ally here, I guess, because they might come here. Okay. 1 player, 2 players. Okay, get some damage down. Yeah, this match looks actually quite easy, I have to be honest. Making tiramisu, that sounds good. Sadly, I can't get any of that. But at least you can enjoy it later. And glad that you're still in my stream then. Oh my god, that hit me. How did that hit me? That was at the edge of the how's it called, range of the skill. Do they have a DC? No, it just won. Okay, I guess that's push in a nutshell. Sometimes you win in terms of, I don't know, 2 minutes. How is Thief or Deadeye in PvP, World vs. World PvE? So I think Thief is in a weird spot. Spectre is a very good pick in all game modes. But Deadeye and Daredevil are just like, I don't know. Sometimes they are really good, sometimes not. Yeah, I mean, what was that match actually? What? I have now almost an 80% win rate solo queue. It's actually, push is insane actually. I don't know what happens in push, why it's actually working out so well for me. But I expect to lose a lot of matches now. Yeah. So I think Thief, Deadeye and Daredevil is like, they are decent as a DPS, but that's about it. It's like they, in every single game mode, they play the assassin role. So I think in PvE, they can play them actually quite well, but you have to understand when they are working, because you have to commit a lot of resources to actually learn that class. It's not something that is very easy to pick up. It's one of the, I would say, more unique classes to play DPS. But if you can make it work, it's very good at single target DPS. The cleave might not be the best, but that's not really necessary for all PvE content. Spectre, on the other hand, is a very good support and some kind of hybrid support in all game modes. I think if you like that playstyle of some kind of shadow shroudy thief, it's really good. Yeah, it's true. I mean, the PvP match is way shorter than Fractal Boss, yeah. Definitely if you have to redo Arc. I mean, what the fuck? The last time I had to reset on Arc was like, I don't know, 5 years ago or something. What this group, I mean, I'm speechless, you know. The boss fight is so easy, you face it, you know, typically you don't see any mechanics. If I play DPS there, or if someone else is very decent there, and then we face this guy without having to do any anomalies and stuff, is actually crazy. But apparently, not every time. It's fine, I don't care that much. It's actually, you know, sometimes it's nice to see the mechanics. It's nicer to see them done correctly, but at least sometimes I'm happy to see mechanics of a fight and not skip everything. Would you share it if you could, but something tells me I'm probably a little far on the south side of Australia. Yeah, Elizabeth, that's probably quite far to actually go there. So what do we have here? Oh my god, they have 2 Mirages. That's insane. That's a lot of damage if they play both power. Why is playing? Everyone is playing Spectre. 2 Spectres in the game. Crazy. Chrono also got nerfed on PvP in upcoming patch. Blue is back. So Chronomancer in PvP doesn't get nerfed with the upcoming patch. Chronomancer got nerfed a while ago, and I would say Chronomancer is a decent pick in PvP still. It might be one of the top 3 supports with Staff Tempest and Heal Firebrand actually. Especially in push, Heal Firebrand is really good, because in push you need healers that have consistent healing. And Chronomancer struggles a bit with it has good burst healing and good buffs, but after like say 30 seconds or something, you lose all your value for a bit because your cooldowns are too high. Firebrand and even Staff Tempest don't have that problem, that's why they are really good in push. But in Conquest, I think Chrono is still one of the best supports, if not the best support, because you have a lot of agency with your spear. And that's not something that the other supports have. Supports are really like only healing. That's about it. Yes, I'm a German, so sorry for my accent. Hope you can still understand me. It's so sad. I really wanted to play a Willbender game, but it really looks like if I play Willbender here, I lose the match. That's for sure. We don't have any healing here. That's the sad part. Yeah, I'm glad that you think so. I try my best to improve as well. Okay, so this is a... holy shit, they play with longbow. This guy is instantly dead. Okay. I think this is a 5-person team in the enemy team. Ugh. This is a hard match, I have to be honest. Okay, got out of combat. I can't get the reses here, that's the problem. I don't play with the Signet just because the Signet is in pucks. It's like... oh, holy shit. Okay, but that's insane. That's what I mean. If you play with, against a 5-person team, they are obviously queuing together. Then they have too much damage. This is lost, sadly. I can try, but it feels like they just kill us over and over now. How would you say support is in PvP? I think in push, the problem is support in PvP, especially in push, it's actually, if you want to have high-level play, it's actually necessary. That's the thing. But the problem is, in ranked, which is typically what, let's say, 90% of the community actually plays only, just some random ranked play, yeah? It's like, if you play support, you are really in for the really painful times, yeah? Because this is the thing that actually makes you quit the game mode, because you see that you are supporting your allies, but your allies don't do anything to make the support worthwhile, you know? Sometimes I had someone that I resurrected with a glyph or something, and it was really clutch, and they instantly killed them again. And then it was like, okay, I should not have wasted my glyph on that guy. And that's like in support gameplay, it's always like that. It's really so often the case that you are supporting decently well, but your team makes just really stupid decisions and you can't carry them. So if you play in ranked, a build like a support, you really have to feel like that sometimes you are just, you can't win it, you know? You really have to always stay on your team, help them, support them. But sometimes if your team is just stupid, doesn't make the correct decisions, it's over. That's what you have to understand. If you play in a decent pre-made group, like you have some crazy good players with you, like from 55, and just the people that are from your, I don't know, your guild and whatever, then you can play support to a way higher efficiency. But in ranked, it's really punishing sometimes because you can't carry even if you played really well. That's the problem. But I would say 1 support, even 2 in push, is actually necessary on high level play. Yeah. I find myself in a sellout where I go into PvP and we don't have a support, so we lose. Yeah, that's the problem. I think that's one of the big issues that I also put in my video where I talk about push, that's coming out tomorrow, I think, is that push is very matchmaking dependent. So if you play against a team that has 1 support or even 2 supports and your team doesn't, it's lost. It's almost surely lost because it's just the difference in a fight where you continuously fight for 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, and you don't have a healer. It's insane. You can't win against that. But that's the same with a 5-person pre-made queue against a 5-person all single players, you know, not a single team in there. It's also very unlikely that the team that just has 5 solo queuing players will win. So I feel like push is very one-sided in that sense, but it's the same for conquest. If the enemy team has a support and it's a team fight map where you team fight all the time, the support team is very favored. Doesn't mean it wins all the time, because obviously there can be skill gaps, like insane skill gaps. But for the most part, you're obviously right. For the most part, it's always something that is very match comp dependent. Yeah. Are you using a Razer Naga mouse or something? I'm using I think it's a Logitech G600 2 something. Yeah, I think that's how it's called. So it has MMO buttons, so I can use actually my 6 to 0 button keys on the side with my thumb. Yes. Yeah, see you, Echo Fox. See you. Have a nice weekend. Yeah, and that's quite a lot. That's the thing that I don't like about PvP. That the team comp or the matchmaking, let's say, lets you win or lose the match. Yeah. And this is a thing that can be improved if you have just, let's say, 10 times the amount of players queuing up at the same time. Because then the matchmaking can make fairer matches. But we currently have too little amount of players playing. And that means that it's very, so to say, hard for the matchmaking to make fair matches. Especially when it comes to the skill, but also to just, let's say I'm a Guardian, I play a Guardian, and they typically, it doesn't want me to queue up with 5 Guardian in my team, and in the enemy no Guardian, so it splits them a bit. But if there are only 1 Guardian or 2 Guardians queuing at one time, it's very hard to make matches that are always like very equally split. So I feel like this is the biggest problem with PvP right now has, that just the general amount of population is too low to make matches somewhat decently fair all the time. Yeah. Should there be a role select option where it forces 1 support into each team minimum? That would be a decent way to do it, but the problem is Guild Wars 2's meta is sadly not really, you can't dumb it down for the most part and say 1 support player is winning you the match, because especially in Conquest, on some maps, you don't want to have a support, and it is map dependent. So for example, on Temple of the Silent Storm, that's the best example, you don't want to have a support in your team. So the team with the support typically loses on this map if you play it well, because there are possibly 5 nodes with the 2 buffs that come up. And that means that this is very hard to make a role selector where it's team dependent, so sometimes you don't want to have a support if you have only roaming classes. For example, a Spectre can fill the support role to some extent as well. If you have a lot of fast moving classes, you don't need a support. If you are on a specific map, you don't need a support. But for push, for example, if it comes out, I personally think, at least if you can say and flag yourself as a support, that would be good. I agree with that one. Yeah. For push, I think the role selecting would be good. Yeah, I think it's definitely the one-trick ponies that stick to one class, especially if it's, for example, I don't know, a class that is really niche where you only want to have at maximum 1 of those, it's really bad. I agree. So if you have one class, like, I don't know, let's say you have 1 Spear Catalyst, you know, that is, and they only play Spear Catalyst. That's a good pick if you have a support. But if you have 3 of the Spear Catalyst, it's a bad pick because they can't really support each other and they will just die all the time. So one-trick ponies, especially in push, are a big problem. You can't really carry matches that easily. Stuff like players like me that swap classes depending on the team comp have an easier time. Doesn't mean I can carry each match, you can see that. And I'm not the best player either, but at least I have the option. Oh, come on, I don't want to play support all the time. Oh my god. Thanks for the tier 1 coin, Lloyd. Really appreciate it. Really, really appreciate it. Thanks for support. And thanks, Johnny and Chaos, for the sub, for the follow, rather. Really appreciate it as well. Have you tried Dagger Warhorn Elementalist support? So the thing is, I can play a different support here. Let me check. What can I play here? Yeah, let's play some Staff Tempest support, but I feel like Dagger Warhorn is not really good anymore. So the problem is what I have with Tempest, that Staff is really, really good. If you play something that is like Dagger Warhorn, really melee focused, and Warhorn is not really a good competitive weapon, I would say, because it's really aggressive support. It's not like some invulnerability in the kit. It feels really punishing. And I really like the Staff, the range, the safety from it. Yeah. I have a 180 character boost left, and I think I'm going to create a new character and not use the boost. I use the boost on amassment. I'm overwhelmed. Yeah, I mean, that's a fair thing. You don't have to use the boost to get to level 80. You can just level it and learn the class slowly. I think that's a good thing to do if you are overwhelmed with level 80, which is fair. You know, it's not like you waste 100 hours to level the character. That's not it. It takes, let's say, a few hours, 10, 20 maybe, and you will be fine. Yeah, maybe some kind of MOBA matchmaking would be good, but it's really hard to implement in Guild Wars 2 because the roles are so flexible. It's not like you have a jungler and that's really clearly defined. It's like you can make a lot of different team compositions work. Maybe not in push, but in other game modes. Yeah. Yeah, Warhorn is just not a weapon for PvP. It's just not designed like that. I don't know, that looks a little bit scary. This is a great sword Reaper. Please focus on this guy. Maybe I can get the cliff here. That was very close, but I guess this is actually, this just won us the team fight, I have to be honest. Because they would have rallied those two players, no they didn't. Crazy. The best and worst part of team games is being forced to rely on your team. Yeah, exactly. You have to rely on your team, and sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing. Especially if you play support and your team is not doing any damage, it feels really bad because you can't do damage either. So it's always like you have to. Team games are like that. Sometimes it's a really good thing, sometimes it's a really bad thing. You just have to understand it. Yeah, the offhand, the offhand is, focus is such a good offhand, and staff is just such a good two-handed weapon. So going for Warhorn is like a really big disadvantage, and that's the part that is really dangerous about just playing support. You really have to understand to survive on your own as well. It's not always about just healing your allies, and that's what Warhorn does the best, healing allies, yes, but it's not good enough in comparison to staff or even focus offhand. That's my take, but you know, if you want to experiment stuff, you can also do that, you know, it's not like written in stone that you only can do that. And I like staff as well, because on staff you actually have the option to have the written in stone very well as well. That's really helpful. Oh my god, I can't get the rest here. Get the kill, get the kill, get the kill. Nice, we got the rally. Maybe we can get some healing here on this guy. Nice, maybe go on this guy, please. Nice, that was a really good emob. Nice, we got them. Clean. Do you have any class suggestions for first playthrough? I really enjoy the idea of having a melee and range switch. I mean, all of the classes actually can do that, so you should go for the class that you actually enjoy the most, the fantasy of. Nice. That you enjoy the fantasy of the most. But if you want to have a specific class or want to see how it actually plays out, you can also check out my, how is it working like that? Yeah, my classes video where I showcase every single class in Guild Wars 2 at the end game. Maybe that helps you to decide which class you actually enjoy the playstyle of the most. But I would always go for one that's actually enjoy. I agree with you, Asa, that it's actually Warhorn has decent skills, but like the focus really with the invulnerability is really, really good. I play support in most games who have them, and I have found if you can even find one person you can befriend and play with consistently, yeah, it's definitely helping a lot. Son of Zeus. Okay. That's good. That's a good name. What do I play here? Is this a... No. What do I play here? Is this good here? No, I think Firebrand is better. Yeah, I think Warhorn is just a PvE, maybe world versus world weapon, but it's not good in PvP. I think Warhorn doesn't have the numbers to support it. And it's also, I also feel like the dagger main hand is nice and all, but I feel like staff is way better, especially in push. You know, you want to be ranged. In push, if you have ranged, it's way better. It's just straight up better because you don't want to stand on the point all the time. And you can heal from range. You can go on a port spot and heal your team from range. That's really, really helpful. But it's obviously always something that you have to find the playstyle that suits you. So if you are enjoying, for example, I don't know, Willbender the most, you should not always play support, even though you can't play it or you don't want to play it. You should play the stuff that you enjoy because you can carry on each spec. No, I would say sometimes it's a little bit harder to carry on specific specs, but still. Yeah. Yeah, staff is obviously helping a lot with the stability. That's a good point. Stability, support without stability, even in PvP, it's almost impossible to play. Or not impossible, but at least it's really punishing. Oh, that's a staff guardian. Hammer guardian, rather. And this is a crazy berserker, I have to be honest. Son of Zeus. So we're playing against the Finnish Mafia here. I really like Firebrand. I think Firebrand is heavily underrated how good that one is. So this guy we can actually just let him bleed. Oh, we are all stacking on node. That's not something we want to do, but apparently it's fine for now. Cleave him down, just play it safe. I noticed you have a lot of characters. Which would you consider your main? Probably right now my Mesmer in my PvE Mesmer, but I play all the classes as you can see, and I have character for each game mode. So I play my human female Mesmer is my PvE character for PvE Mesmer. Oh my god, I'm not sure if I can get the rest here. That was very greedy, I have to be honest. Nice, we got the reflect here. Thanks for the raid, Johnny. Really appreciate it. Welcome, welcome. We're just playing some push and having some fun with Firebrand against Son of Zeus. Obviously, that's a very legendary player. No, I'm joking, of course, but still, it looks like a decent match here. Firebrand is really fun in push. I really like it, how well it suits the game mode, actually. Nice, we got all the kills. Spear is good in that mod? Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, I think Spear is a lot of classes have Spear as an AoE weapon, and in push you need a lot of AoE. As healing, as damage, everything works with AoE here very well. So yeah, good idea to go for Spear on most classes, yes. But of course it depends a bit on the build. Yeah, I think the new balance patch is not helping with flexibility. I think a lot of classes are just very the same, not very unique. That's a problem, of course. But I mean, that's their game after all. So if they want to do it like that, come on, guys, stay on me, please. Can't heal you from afar that much on Firebrand, though. Yeah, it's quite clean. We surprisingly enough, my team now does damage and we actually win the match. Who would have thought? Easy peasy. It's actually crazy. I still have a 75% win rate. It's actually really good as a solo queue player. I'm happy about that one. Yeah, Firebrand is really fun in push, I agree. I agree a lot that it's really fun to have a different meta, even though you're having the same balance. Sometimes you have a different meta that's effect in push than in conquest, because it's a little bit more favoring builds that have more AoE, that have a different kind of healing or DPS style. So yes, it's definitely true that push is very interesting in that. Of course, it can be really stale when it's out for 2 months already. And maybe it's really boring because it's always the same. But in general, I would definitely agree, yeah. Thanks for the follow, by the way. Glubsch, really appreciate it. Do you have a favorite class? I think it depends on the game mode. Currently, I like to play a lot of Necromancer in PvP when it's not push. I like to play Mesmer in PvE, and I like to play Elementalist in World vs. World. But this changes, almost every week. So I don't have a specific class that I would say is my favorite. My last match, the teams were so balanced, we hit the timeout of the match. Yeah, I think I had a lot of timer matches already. Sometimes they feel a little bit long, you know, it's a long timer, but it feels really exciting at the last second if you win the match then. Yeah, I agree. Do they consult with the elite players to come up with these patch suggestions? If not, they should. So to some extent they do. So for example, best example is that the staff changes on Necromancer. So I can show you the staff changes on Necromancer. I told you earlier that they now, if you have the transfusion trait after the patch, that it will now be also triggered by allies so that you can get the boons consistently without even placing them on your enemies. This is a change that was exactly, you know, to the T suggested by Grimcheck, which is one of the best players in Guild Wars 2 as a whole, I would say. And this is really fun. Sometimes this happens that the really try-hard players actually make suggestions in a balanced Discord and they actually listen to them, but it's not always the case. Very often it's more like they give all their opinion, which is somewhat biased. Sometimes it's objective, it depends a bit, and they give their opinion and the developers take their own opinion, mix it with the player's opinion and make some changes and alterations to the balance. So it's very rarely the case that it's one-to-one what was said and was actually said. Yeah. On what character level do you open the bags of gear? So something between 50 and 60. Whatever suits you. I think 54, 56 or something like that, yeah. I'm having buckets of fun with your solo spear virtuoso build. No problem. Glad you like it. Very nice. Think the worm cooldown changes when you kill it by mounting was because Chomp kept complaining about it. Yeah, I think that's always people in the community that have some kind of, you know, voice, that they're actually people that have a somewhat bigger community behind them. They listen to you, to the developers are listening to them way more often. That's the thing. And it's very good that they listen to that, but I think they should listen to it a little bit more. I feel like a lot of times they make changes that are working or decent, but it would be even better if they would have listened in the first place and would not have made this skill like it is, for example. But oftentimes they also have to do their own idea. You know, it's not every time the player base is correct. I want to say that as well. The problem is Spear. Void Tech Spear in World vs. World feels like a really interesting weapon for Elementalists. The problem is, and I can show this as well, Spear on Elementalist is a weapon that has a lot of projectiles. And even, it doesn't matter if you want to play support, if you want to play DPS, every time you play a Spear in competitive modes and you have a lot of reflect up, which is the case in World vs. World, all your Spear skills, almost all of them, except the Volcano, are actually useless. Yeah. So keep that in mind. Stuff that is reflectable is really bad. And that's why Staff is really good in World vs. World as a DPS weapon, because it doesn't have any reflectable stuff on, not at all on Elementalist. But Spear, almost every single skill is reflectable with the exception of Fissure and Volcano, I think. So this is a problem. So that's why I would say it's typically you play Dagger Warhorn as a support or play Staff as some kind of DPS version. I think something else is speared in Cirque, yeah. Yeah, I mean the worm buffs is definitely helping, because the worm buffs, what does it mean buffs? It's more like a fix. It's really annoying that stuff goes away on a very high cooldown just because you mount it, because that lets you not mount anymore in general. Dagger is actually quite good on Tempest, on Catalyst, in World vs. World for roaming. I released a build guide yesterday, I think, about it. It's really fun to play. I like it a lot. It's not it's not the most broken spec, but actually is, I would say, A or S tier as a roamer. It's really fun to play. I like it a lot, yeah. But of course, it's not for everyone. And it's also very fun. I personally like the playstyle a lot. I think that if I would have to choose one weapon for Elementalist, I would probably choose Dagger. I think Dagger is very fun because it's so fast-paced. It's not for everyone, don't get me wrong. It's melee and it's very, button mashy. It's not like you think about your skills all the time. It's more like you press them when they come off cooldown. That's like it. But it's really, it feels very fluid. You feel like a battle mage that actually is in the enemy and not standing behind, like, let's say 5 tanks or something and tries to hit them. Yeah, we get a 1-on-1 here, I guess. So we can see how it goes. Where's it going? Sorry, I have to concentrate here a bit. And I'm playing against... Okay, my teammate is now here as well. Should be fine. But still, this is a really fun build. It's one of the more unfun builds to play against. That's true. It's not the most fun build to play against. The reason for that is the same reason why it's fun to play, in my opinion, because it's very spammy. It's like your cooldowns are very short. You have very spammy attacks, and a lot of the attacks are quite punishing if you get hit by it. So I agree, it's not the best build to play against, but to be honest, I don't choose my build depending on how much fun my enemy has against it, you know? I want to have fun myself. So it's an issue of balancing. If all the builds that are really strong are unfun to play against, that's the job of the balancing team to actually fix that. It's not my job as the player to play a build that is fun for the enemy to play against. But of course, you're completely right there, Solly, that it's not the most interactive build, especially if you play Catalyst, because it's very, very spammy. I agree with that one. But to be honest, if I really speak completely bluntly here, I think World versus World in a whole, the meta, especially for roaming, is really unfun. I think there is almost no build that you face that is somewhat close to the meta or meta build that is fun to fight against. I feel like almost all the really good builds are really obnoxious. They have to be obnoxious to actually be good. That's what I don't like about the meta, because it feels really like if your build is fair and you can react to the skills, it's a bad build, typically. Which is really, really sad in my opinion. But I guess that's just how it goes, I guess. And some people here in chat, I don't want to name call, but some people in chat actually enjoy playing builds that are really obnoxious and they are not even that good. They just want to make the enemy rage quit. I guess that's also a fair strategy, I guess. I'm not one of them. I don't want to promote those builds, but yeah, it could also be the case for some. Is Untamed still S tier in roaming, or Soul Beast is better? It's really hard for me to judge, because I really rarely see some kind of really good Untameds and Soul Beasts, so I can actually compare that. I think for me, both of them might be A tier now. Maybe I'm a little bit coping here, but I feel like they are both decent, but not broken anymore. Yeah. How long do you think it takes to catch up to the story? Starting from Heart of Thorns, I played 99% PvP since Heart of Thorns. Will I have enough time before the next expansion hits? Yes, you will. The story takes, I would say, each expansion takes around, let's say, 3 hours to play through. So it's not a big deal. The CC chaining. And no crits! Oh my god, I would, if I didn't kill there because I didn't crit at all, that would have been so sad. Yeah, so not a big problem. Story in Guild Wars 2, in my opinion, it's not for everyone, but one thing you have to say, it's typically not that long. It doesn't take that long to play through. Maybe Path of Fire takes a little bit longer, but if you then go to the faster episodes after that, it's actually not that much. So I would say you are here. So Living World Season 3, yeah, I don't know, few hours. Then Path of Fire, again, a few hours. Living World Season 4, a few hours. Icewood Saga is quite fast. End of Dragons, little bit longer. I don't know, it depends, but you will easily get that done before the next expansion. Easily, it's in October, so you have now like 4 or 5 months until you complete this. Not a big deal. Just discovered your YouTube content recently. Since you mentioned your most main Mesmer in PvE, what's your opinion on the best open world Mesmer build spec at the moment? Mesmer has a lot of good open world specs. So I would say if you want to min-max the most, the best open world spec is Condition Chronomancer. I'm not joking, this might be the best one. But it's very gimmicky. It has a very gimmicky mechanic to actually make this the best one. If you want to have just straight up the best one without much thought, then it will probably be Mirage. Condi Mirage is really good. And other than that, Virtuoso is also quite good. But I would say Mirage is the easiest one and Chronomancer the best one overall. Yes. How you seen new changes in Devil and Spectre? I like the Spectre changes. I think they are not nerfs or buffs in specific. I think they are just healthy changes, personally. I think the Daredevil changes are good because Daredevil is underused, but I feel like it might not make a big difference. I personally think Thief stays somewhat the same, personally. I don't see Thief being completely different because of that. But maybe I'm wrong there. Maybe the changes are absolutely enough. Could be. But I doubt it. No, don't kill the guys without. Also depends on what kind of open world content. That's obviously true. It's always like if you only play easy content, then you want to go for a power build. But if you go for harder content, I think the Condi Celestial builds pull ahead, definitely. Do you like to play Spear Chrono for roaming? I don't like it. I think Chronomancer is a spec that is made for supporting allies. It's not very good at roaming, personally. I think it's decent. You can play it, don't get me wrong. But I like to play specs that are very self-sufficient and not really niche in what they do. And Chrono for roaming, I feel like it's not the best one. At least it's my opinion. Yeah. Condi Word for generic stuff, Great Swords Wasteland, Power Mirage for tagging during metas, and Condi Mirage for soloing hard content. Yeah, I think Condi Mirage is very good, but I feel like if you really want to go try hard, the best option is Condi Chrono. Condi Chrono is slightly better than Condi Mirage. It's a fact. But it's obviously a little bit more gimmicky. I have guides about all of those builds you mentioned, except the tagging Mirage, but it's obviously very easy to put this together yourself. Cantrip giving protection relic can be degenerate on some Thief builds. I agree. I think this can be really annoying to do. It depends a bit. I think they might just nerf the duration very low in competitive modes so that it's not very useful there. But if it's long enough, it can be a really, really painful relic to play against. Definitely. Yeah. I just noticed, do you actually play with baseline keybinds? No. I have those keys here that you can see on the right side. I actually have those bound to my mouse. I have an MMO mouse, that's why I actually have those. But I use the F4 to F1 on the mouse, or on the normal keyboard, and F5 I also have on my mouse. But if you don't have an MMO mouse, you can bind that to the keys around your WASD as well. So you should bind these keys and not use this. Of course, the 0 skill is obviously way too hard to use if you only have one hand on the keyboard. Yeah. Heel Scourge gets big changes, yeah. Heel Scourge is really big in changes. I mean, you want to do it a 1-on-1 again. Last time didn't go so well. I have so much stability, this guy doesn't do anything against me. And now he's dead. That's a little bit unfair, I have to be honest. But okay, what can you do? Yeah, so Heal Scourge gets changes in the sense that Transfusion gets completely reworked. So you lose the ability to heal your allies in downstate, but you get the ability to actually use your staff marks on your allies, and they give boons and cleanse and heal conditions. And so it's really, really good. But it's losing the ability to heal downstate. So this is, talked about it a while ago in my video that I will release later. But it's, in my opinion, Heal Skirts loses the unique thing that made it really good, but it gets more utility for general gameplay. So you can say that's a good thing, that's a bad thing. It's a change. That much is for sure. Yeah. So I talked about the balance patch already, yes. But in general, I would say the balance patch is one of the better ones they put out because it has actually changes. You know, it's big changes. It's not always the best changes that they do, but at least it changes stuff. The previous balance patches were always like, they didn't do anything. It's like double dodging, okay. Yeah, but I feel like it's not the... Not everyone will love it. It depends a bit on the class that you play. But like I said, I will release a video today on my YouTube channel debating the balance changes, so you don't have to watch my whole VOD of this stream. I will release a video about it. Don't worry. See you, Malison. See you. Have a nice breakfast. Yeah, this build is quite good. Yeah, I agree. I think the Grenadier change is actually a big plus because it will just give you more damage on every build that uses Grenadier before, because you will just use it typically to get the faster velocity, and now you don't need to do that anymore. You get just the damage multiplier from Glass Cannon, I think it is. So it's a big buff for roaming engineers, yeah. The info on the balance patch? Thanks, Solly, for posting it. Yeah, I think overall the balance patch, I was really surprised that they actually made the balance preview on such a short notice. So they just said it on Thursday evening that on Friday there will be a stream. So I was a bit shocked or surprised by that, but I'm quite happy that the balance patch actually puts so many big changes there. Especially if, I think, Engineer, Elementalist, and Mesmer, in my opinion, those three actually get really, really big changes. Guardian, Ranger, and Necromancer, not that much. But those three classes that I mentioned are actually really, I'm really surprised how many crazy changes they made. Which is a good thing. I think balance patches should shake up the meta and not just change some numbers and no one cares. So I'm happy about that. But like I said, I think in roaming, for example, and in World versus World in general, I think the meta will not change too much. Maybe Staff Necromancer will be more common in Zergs, but that's about it. I think the most changes are more affecting PvP and PvE. So structured PvP. Yeah. Main thing I'm worried is the relics, because some seem insane. And that Celestial Catamite even stronger. Yeah, I think roaming, the relics that will come out, actually not with the 24th of June patch, but will come out before already, because they will come with the next balance, or with the next update, with the next content update, and the next content update is in 10 days. So the relics will come out in 10 days, and some of them seem actually really good. For example, the stance one, so we get one that cleanses a condition, actually cleanses 2 conditions when you activate a stance. And this is obviously insane on a Weaver or a Soul Beast. So I think this might be a meta pick in PvP and even World vs. World. And the relics are at the bottom of the patch notes. So just scroll down to the absolute bottom, and there it will be. They have a lot of damage. I have to be a bit careful here. Oh my god. Sad. I could have won that if I played it better. Actually, if I bursted those, it would have been better. Sad. Yeah, I agree. I totally agree, Crow Tiger. I think that this is the best balance patch in a year, or maybe even longer, because it actually changes things. It's actually, you know, there might be some takes in there that I wouldn't agree with. For example, I don't like it if they take away uniqueness of a class just to make it more homogeneous. I think that's not good, but I think it's at least changing stuff. That's why I would definitely say it's a really good patch in that sense. Yeah. Yeah, the problem is with the staff necro changes, yes, it gives more boons, but I think it's also the transfusion was a nice trade in PvE especially, because you could resurrect downstate allies really good. So, yeah. I like the Exodia relic giving increased all stats and all boons. I think that's fun, but I feel like it is really risky if it's too high balanced. I think that it has to be somewhat good, but it should not be crazy good, yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think I think the relics are like, some classes profit a lot by using those relics, but some classes are really bad with it. And I think it depends heavily on the numbers. I don't know the numbers. So, for example, the stance relic is the only one that I know the numbers because they told us. So 2 Condi cleanses per stance that you use is insane on a Weaver. This will make Condi Hammer Weaver or Condi Weaver in general really, really good. In roaming especially, but also in PvP you can play some nice bunker build with Hammer. It will be crazy good, because this was the only thing that killed it was Condis. And now you activate a stance and you actually get a lot of cleanses. So it's actually crazy good, because all of the stances on Weaver actually have how's it called? Ammunition. So this says ammunition, and this says ammunition, and all of those will proc actually twice. So you have so many Condi cleanses. It's absolutely insane. It's really, really good. But of course, that's only in some niche scenarios. It's not always like, you wouldn't use that on every build. It's only on Weaver, for example, that it's good, or maybe on Soul Beast. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Sometimes, yeah, I think a lot of the builds in PvP, I think a lot of the relics in general would use the relics very well in competitive modes only. I think in PvE, a lot of the relics are really bad. Some of them are decent, but most of them are really clearly designed for competitive modes, which is good. You know, I like more relics being useful. I think the most interesting one for me is like the might one, that can be really obnoxious if the ICD is low, so that you get more might just by getting might. That's actually insane, especially because they actually buffed this trait as well. So I think the biggest winner of the patch is Elementalist. This trait now removes might when you swap out of fire. And this is completely removed, and you will also get access to the relics. So overall, it's actually crazy. A lot of changes, yeah. And Engineer gets the kit changes. I think I like it. I like the patch. I think some of the changes are not good. That's my opinion. But at least they are changing stuff. It's really affecting the game. It's not like it's always the same. That's a good thing. Yeah, I think Necromancer marks in general with the transfusion trait will be really, really good. But you have to take transfusion. If you don't take the transfusion or the bloodline trait line, you actually don't get access to it. So I think this is a fair balancing thing, because you will typically only use it then on some kind of support build. You will not use that on some kind of DPS build. Yeah, it's true. It's not the perfect patch notes yet, but I think there will not be that many different changes. It's the Thief again. I mean, last time you won, did lose the 101, so it's a Condi Thief, or what is this? No, it's Power Thief, I think. I don't know, it's really weird. Why does it... Is it a Celestial Thief? What is this guy playing? Weird. Weird build. The Condi and the daggers, it's really crazy. That's a cook, I have to be honest. There we go. So let's capture the camp. And I think that will also end the stream for today then. So thank you all guys for watching. I had a blast. It was really fun talking about the balance and stuff. Hope you enjoyed the stream. If you haven't already, be sure to check out my YouTube channel. I have some, I hope, decent content there for you. Daily Guild Wars 2 content, debates, build guides, just for every type of player. So check it out if you haven't already. And thanks for all for the follows, the subs, really appreciate it. and hope to see you next time. Have a nice weekend. See you around.